All right. All right. Good morning, everybody. Morning. You find a seat. Morning. Welcome to the July 1st, 2025 Hempstead Town Board meeting. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Supervisor Clavin.
Oh, here.
Councilman Dunn.
Here.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Here.
Councilwoman Miller.
Here.
Councilman Muscarella.
Present.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Present.
Councilman Schneider.
Here. Councilman Dunn, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All rise, face the American flag, place your right hand over your heart, and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We got a number of town board hearings today. If you want to speak, please go to the back, sign in, and fill out the form. Before we start the meeting, Madam Clerk, there's been a lot of chatter, a lot of speculation, and I do want to make a major announcement to anybody that's been asking, because there was speculation of announcement today. Effective today at the Plaza Cafe, the special is the chicken burrito or beef burrito with a can of soda, and the soup of the day is the chicken noodle. That is today's major announcement for anybody that wanted to know otherwise, and I'm going to now say let us move on with government as we are supposed to. Madam Clerk, please call the first matter.
Yes. The first public hearing is a proposed local law regarding regulations and restrictions to limit parking in Baldwin, Hewlett, Lido Beach, and near Limbrook and North Valley Stream.
Any member of the board wish to be heard on this? If not, have any slips on item number 1? Anybody sign in or did not sign in wishes to speak? If not, can I please have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Councilman Schneider.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding parking or standing prohibitions in Baldwin, Elmont, Hewlett, Seaford, and near Valley Stream.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard? Okay, I do not have any slips on item number 2. Anybody wishes to be heard on item number 2 did not sign in? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the board adopt the item.
Second that motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Councilman Schneider.
Aye. Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding arterial stops in Levittown, North Merrick, Uniondale, and Wantagh.
Any member of the board wish to be heard? Okay, I don't have any slips on item number 3. Anybody wish to be heard did not sign in? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move that the public hearing be closed and the board approve the item.
Second.
motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Councilman Schneider.
Aye. Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding traffic regulations in the vicinity of schools in Uniondale.
Anybody member of the board wish to be heard? I do not have any slips on this item. Anybody wish to be heard in item number 4 that did not sign in? Sure, if you please come to the back and give your name and address for the record, that'd be awesome.
Can you hear me? Oh,
Yeah,
good
you're
morning.
good.
Supervisor, Deputy Supervisor Gooseby, and everybody else. I just need a point of clarification. The traffic regulars this morning.
Number
Traffic
4 location?
regulations on the vicinity of the schools in Uniondale. What schools are being affected?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, James B. Jacob, Uniondale.
Good morning. Gentlemen, if you gave your name to identify yourself and see if you can give a response to help him.
Robert Capriola, Robert Murphy Jr., representing traffic control. This case is on Anchor Way and Larboard Court. We're removing the time parking restriction in front of House 293 from 8 to 4 school days. They don't have enough parking, so they would like the restriction to be removed from in front of their home.
Oh, okay, because the reason I asked, because I know we have an issue with speeding on certain schools, like middle schools and elementary school.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted a point of clarification. So basically, you're making a no parking for a particular time when school's in session then, right?
Yes, we're taking that away for the homeowner. They requested it, and we told them if they have any, complaints when school starts again, to give us a call back, and, we could reevaluate the situation for them.
Just point of clarification, do you also enforce speed limits in relation to school zones, or that's not in your department?
No, we handle school zone speed limits.
Yeah, so in the future, when fall come 1st September, we'll appreciate you coming to Uniondale and trying and make sure you enforce that for us, please. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, gentlemen. Great job. Board meeting number 2 for the both of you. You're doing tremendous work.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to be heard on this item? If not, might I please have a motion? Pretty please. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. I move the resolution and hope that all the board members vote in favor of it.
I second that motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Councilman Schneider.
Aye.
Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have a proposed local law regarding school speed limits in North Merrick and near Valley Street.
Okay, any member of the board wish to be heard? I do not have any slips on item number 5. Anybody wish to be heard? Not signed in? If not, may I please have a motion?
I move the public hearing be closed and the board approve the item.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Councilman Schneider.
Aye.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the next item.
We have an application of WG Woodmere LLC et al. To rezone a parcel of land located in the southwest corner of Meadow Drive and Broadway in Woodmere, known as the Woodmere Club, from Coastal Conservation District to Woodmere Club to CA Resident District.
Okay. Good morning, gentlemen. If you'd identify yourselves.
Good morning. Jack Martins with Harris Beach on behalf of the applicant, supervisor, members of the board. May I?
Yep, go for it.
Thank you. With me today, I have, on behalf of WG, I have the principals, Robert Weiss and Ephraim Gersberg, along with consultants from VHB Engineering. We have Kevin Walsh, we have Pat Lenahan, and Dave Wortman. They'll speak regarding the site plan itself, the layout of the plan, traffic, and they'll discuss the environmental and secret considerations with regard to this application. The application is regarding the Woodmere Club, something I think we're all quite familiar with. The Woodmere Club encompasses 55 acres within the town of Hempstead, several acres, cumulatively approximately 60 additional acres between the villages of Woodburg and Lawrence. Our application today is only with respect to the 55 acres contained within the town of Hempstead, and we're requesting a change of zone from the current zone, Coastal Conservation District, Woodmere Club, to CA Residence District. The application would involve the development of the parcel on 34 acres and the preservation of 21 acres on the southerly portion of the 55 acres. Currently, the Coastal Conservation Zone allows for 3 subdivisions: open space recreational, single-family residential, and clubhouse hospitality, allowing for single-family residential development on 2 portions within the villages of Woodsburg and Lawrence, and another portion within the town. What we're asking is for the 55 acres within the town to be subdivided to allow for a 160-unit, age-restricted, condominium owner-occupied residential development. Again, it's 160 units on 34 acres to the north. The 21 acres to the south would be preserved. By changing to a CA residential district, Mr. Supervisor, this would allow for the town to recognize not only the use of the property, it is a multifamily use, It's common in the town's district, and there are localities immediately adjacent and within a quarter of a mile of the property that are multifamily use. We have the Crestwood Apartments across the street. We have Mayfair Apartments within approximately 400 feet. We have 29 Woodmere Boulevard within 1,500 feet, and Fairfield Apartments within 1,500 feet as well, all multifamily housing. The proposal here is for 3 floors over parking, and again, would be consistent with what is a common use in the area. The proposal would allow for setbacks of 150 feet off of Meadow Drive, 150 feet off of Broadway, and 150 feet off of the residential properties to the west. Significant setbacks as compared to what are the minimum requirements in the CA zone. To discuss the layout, it's right here on the screen. Let me introduce Kevin Walsh from VHB, who will walk through the proposal as it lays out. Again, this is not specific. It has not been developed yet, but for context, the developers are proposing 2 buildings, 3 stories over underground parking. There'll be 428 parking spots below grade for the most part, a couple of parking spots on grade, located within the property outside of the setback areas. The 2 buildings would be connected by a 2-story clubhouse. That 2-story clubhouse would serve as amenity space for the occupants, and again, age-restricted 55 and over occupancy. We have, and we understand that there is support for this project from the community, not only from the villages of Woodsburg, but from the village of Lawrence as well, each of whom we understand have passed resolutions of their boards supportive of this change of zone. And we understand also that this is a first step in resolving the overall use of this property, with the end result being that the northerly 34 acres bounded by Broadway in the north and Meadow to the east, those 34 acres would be developed, and that the balance of this property, for the most part, approximately 80 acres or so, would be preserved as open space. And so we're looking forward to this opportunity, and we believe the change of zone conforms not only to the town code and to the local and prevailing conditions in the local community. So with that, let me introduce Kevin Walsh from VHB.
Good morning, members of the board. Kevin Walsh, Chief Engineer and Project Manager for VHB 100 Motor Parkway, Hauppauge, New York. As Mr. Martin said, I'll just take us through a little bit more detail and context for the plan. If we could maybe look at the overall plan. There we go. Perfect. So the portion of the Woodmere Property Club property for which the change of zone is proposed, as was stated, is the approximately 55.6 acres of property located within the town of Hempstead. That extends from generally Broadway to the north, Keene Lane to the south, Meadow Drive to the east, and the village of Woodsburg and the residential properties to the west. The development of the property as proposed will encompass the northerly 34 of the 55.6 acres, with the remaining 21.6 acres within the town to be preserved as open space. The deed restricted open space will be maintained for and used by the condominium for passive recreation. Other important aspects of the overall plan that you see here is that the building or the buildings are located outside of the special flood hazard area, i.e. the 100-year floodplain, in the highest elevations of the site up north towards Broadway. The majority of the site area within the flood zones, which is the low-lying area of the site toward the south, will be preserved as open space, which means that the flood mitigation properties of the site will remain unchanged. All of these elements provide obviously for a much better use of the property than the current zoning, which would have clustered single-family dwellings within the flood zones and closer to Keene Lane and the lower lying areas. We can go to the closer up site plan now. Thank you. So looking specifically at the development site, which is the 34 acres we mentioned, the development plan shows the 2 3-story residential buildings connected by the 2-story clubhouse. The overall height of the buildings measured in accordance with the building zone ordinance would be 46 feet. The applicant will be seeking a variance for the height of 3 stories and 46 feet, which I'll get more specific about in a second. The buildings are situated essentially on a pedestal with the parking situated below. Also on top of that pedestal, which is the tan area that you see in the plan here, are the amenity spaces for the residents, including a pool and other recreation areas. The parking that's below the pedestal will be more or less set into the grade as it rises up towards Broadway. The development site also includes surface parking for visitors, staff, and various services, as well as tennis and pickleball courts for the residents and walkways connecting the various parts of the site. As for overall parking, the project will meet the requirements of the building zone ordinance in providing parking at a rate of 2.67 spaces per dwelling unit for a total of 428 parking spaces. Approximately 271 of those spaces will be located in that lower level parking below the pedestal, and the remaining 157 spaces will be located throughout the site as shown on the plan. Access to the condominium will be provided at 2 locations on Broadway, one opposite Prospect Avenue, one opposite Linden Street, and then one location on Meadow Drive opposite Porter Place, and there will be no access from Keene Lane. I just want to emphasize that. The Meadow Drive access will be limited in use, as previously mentioned, and the request of the various municipal agencies, as a result of their requests, we've also included a 10-foot dedication along Meadow Drive and a 10-foot dedication along Broadway. The other key aspect of the concept plan, as you see it here, is the extensive buffering around the site, which includes a 75-foot landscape buffer along Meadow Drive, a 75-foot landscape buffer along Broadway, and a combination of a proposed 50-foot deed-restricted open space plus a 25-foot landscape buffer along the west side of the property adjacent to the residence. So it equates to approximately the same 75 feet. With respect to the CA residence code and compliance to the code, the proposed use, as stated, is multifamily residences restricted to age 55 and older. The building height is proposed to be 3 stories, 46 feet, as measured by the code, for which the applicant will be requesting a variance from the CA zone requirements of 2 stories and 35 feet. The proposed density of 160 units equates to 4.71 units per acre, well below the code maximum of 20 units per acre. The proposed front yard setback is 150 feet, well above the 25-foot minimum required. The required side and rear yard setbacks will be 150 feet, well above the 20-foot and 25-foot requirement. In any case, regardless of how the building department interprets side and rear yards, the building is not closer than 150 feet to any of the adjacent property lines. The building coverage will be no more than 25%, well below the 35% maximum permitted by code. As previously mentioned, the project will provide parking at a rate of 2.67 spaces per dwelling unit. And as for utilities, the project will be connected to county sewers. Public water will be supplied by Liberty Water, and electric and gas will be provided by PSEG Long Island and National Grid, respectively. While many of the details of the project have yet to be worked out or fully engineered, we have worked through some preliminary calculations that indicate that the site will be balanced to the maximum extent practical in terms of excavation and filling of soil. And there will be sufficient means for us to fully contain the runoff from a 100-year storm on the site with no runoff leaving the development area under those conditions. All of these engineering details obviously will be subject to review by the town and the county once we submit the engineered site plans following a decision on the zoning. If you have no questions for me, I can turn it over to Pat. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I have a question, please. Did you say that the entrance and exit is only from Broadway at this time? Is that what the plan is?
It will be limited, the entering traffic will be limited to service vehicles. It will be controlled, it will be limited to service vehicles, staff, that kind of thing. It will not be a general entrance for the residents. And then obviously the exiting traffic will be required to turn north on Meadow and go directly to Broadway.
So the entrance and exits to the development are where?
On Broadway,
On
two locations on Broadway opposite Prospect and Linden.
And those are the only two, is that correct?
They're, right, the two entrances on Broadway, the controlled access on Meadow, there are no other access points, nothing on Keene.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question as well. Did you say how many units, how many bedrooms? Is there a specification for a number of one bedrooms? How many?
I don't believe that's been worked out yet. We're still in the engineering stage of the project and the architectural stage of the building.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you need the exit, the experts?
That was the continuation of the expert was still speaking, responding to those answers. Other people will identify themselves when they come up. I got you. You were looking this way. I got you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Martins?
Thank you. To follow up on Mr. Walsh, I just want to reiterate before I introduce Mr. Lenahan that primary access to the site will be from Broadway. There are two locations. There will be a dedication of a lane to the county for widening of Broadway in this area. That will be for access to the site, and a merge lane back onto Broadway. It will not be a turn lane onto Meadow. It will merge back onto Broadway before Meadow, and the access to the site from Meadow will be controlled. There'll be a stop arm, and it will be limited to service vehicles and the like for access to the site. And so with that, we have Patrick Lenahan, who's joining us also from VHB, who will speak to traffic and perform the traffic study with regard to this application.
Wait, I have one more question. Sorry, Jack.
Of course.
That controlled arm access is only for service people, not for residents?
The control arm would be limited to not allow the public to come in or any visitors and the like.
But residents who reside there would be able to go in and out through there?
It is still open as to whether or not, and if that's a requirement that this board feels is appropriate, certainly we can consider that. We want to restrict to the greatest extent possible access from Meadow. We understand that may be a concern, and I want to be clear. There is no right turn from this site onto Meadow. There's only a left turn as you're leaving the site. That was done with purpose so that access off of this site would go towards Broadway. But to the extent that we can accommodate the community and the community wishes that we not have traffic coming into the local community, we're going to do everything we can to do that as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Lenahan.
Thank you, Mr. Martins. Good morning, Supervisor Clavin, members of the town board, council, and staff. My name is Patrick Lenahan. I'm the Director of Transportation at VHB's Long Island office, 100 Motor Parkway, Hauppauge. VHB has performed a detailed comprehensive traffic impact study to evaluate the potential impacts of the use of the property as proposed as 160 units of age-restricted condominium. The study was performed in accordance with standard traffic engineering practices and procedures and included with the submitted project documents. The traffic study evaluated things that are typical in these studies, which I'm sure this board has heard before. In fact, they've heard me say it before. Existing conditions, traffic safety, site access and circulation, future volumes and capacity. In terms of peak periods we looked at the AM commuter peak, the PM commuter peak, the Saturday midday peak, and because of the prevalence of religious observance in the area on Saturday, also the Sunday midday peak. That's a step we went to here that is normally not done. In terms of intersections, we looked at Broadway at Grove, Broadway at Prospect, Broadway at Linden, Broadway at Meadow, and then Meadow Drive at Porter. In terms of site access, there's been some discussion already. If we look at the plan, there are 3 points of access, 2 of them being on Broadway. Those will be full access with left turns and right turns into the site. One is opposite Prospect, one is opposite Linden. Now, on Meadow, we have what I would refer to as a partial access. The intent of that access is to allow exiting left turns so that folks can get to the traffic signal at the north end of Meadow to access Broadway. Entering vehicles would be restricted, as was discussed previously, but I do want to add that this access will also serve as an emergency vehicle access, which I think is an important aspect of the plan. Regarding the nature of the traffic, just quickly, I want to note that multifamily housing generates traffic at a lower rate than single-family housing per unit, and senior housing generates traffic at a level lower still. In terms of traffic, we're talking about, even at the peak of the peak, 1 vehicle in and 1 vehicle out of the site maybe every 2 minutes on average. So it's a modest traffic generator, particularly for the size of the parcel. Capacity analysis was performed for those peak periods and revealed that the site's operation will not have significant impacts on traffic conditions on Broadway or Meadow. They will essentially operate very close to how they operate now. There is no mitigation, physical mitigation proposed along Broadway, such as, turn lanes to Meadow. I have heard of some talk about that. There is no such proposal. Broadway at Meadow will continue to exist exactly the way it is now, and it will operate very close to exactly the way it does now. Mr. Walsh touched on parking. Circulation on the site, aisle widths, parking stalls are all adequate to meet the needs of the proposal. So in closing, based on our detailed study, it is my professional opinion that the approval and operation of the site development as proposed will not result in any significant traffic impacts within the study area or the vicinity of the site. And I thank you for the opportunity, and I will take any questions unless we want to wait post.
Okay, thank you very much. I know one of the board members has a question for you already.
Yes, I have a question. Were at any time, I know you mentioned the morning rush hour, the evening rush hour, were any of the studies done during school dismissal times, which seems to be a very, very busy area down there?
What we look at, and this is the same as, there's a lot of history on this site, obviously, and studies that were scoped. We looked at the AM peak commuter period, which typically captures school arrival periods at the beginning. That starts at 7 o'clock. And then we looked at the PM peak commuter period, which typically occurs between 4 and 6 o'clock. Sometimes the school departures have occurred prior to that, but when we look at the counts, for instance, on Broadway, there is more traffic during the commuter peak.
But many of the schools in the area get out at around 2:30. I don't know if you've driven down there between 2:30 and 4 when you're starting a study, but that's quite a heavily trafficked time. Was that studied at all?
That time period was not studied, but I should note that the proposed development won't generate its peak traffic during that period either.
Right.
This is there are schools everywhere, so we get this question all the time. And, generally, unless we're, across the street from a school driveway, the condition you really want to look at is the PM peak.
I have a question, please. The 2 exits and entrances on Broadway, what traffic control device will be there upon the completion of the development? I don't know, are there traffic lights at those intersections currently?
There are not. There is a traffic light on Grove, which is one intersection west of our driveway. Prospect is a stop sign on the side street, and our driveway will approach from the opposite side and also be stop control. Likewise, the driveway to the east side of our property will be opposite Linden, which has a stop sign, and we will have a stop sign exiting our property as you approach Broadway. Now, we also have the Meadow egress, which will allow residents to leave the site to Meadow and approach Broadway at the traffic signal.
And you feel that's sufficient? That's your
Yes.
opinion? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Stand by. We're going to have a number of residents speaking. Mr. Martins?
Thank you. Next up, we have Dave Wortman from VHB, who will speak to the secret considerations. I think it's important to reiterate the building envelope that was chosen for the potential construction. Although we're here for a change of zone, we do need to contextualize that, is significantly set back as compared to the requirements of the town code, not only with regard to front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, and rear setbacks, but also with regard to commitments with regard to vegetation, berming, and so as to respect the local community and allow for preservation. 34 acres is sought to be developed, although 55 acres are before the board for consideration in the change of zone. The remaining 21 acres, as I said, will remain open space. And I will point out before I pass the mic to Mr. Wortman, that this is the taller or the higher part of this property. And so understanding the sensitivity of this area with regard to wetlands and certain wetlands and waterfront areas, this is the higher point on the property. And so for purposes of the development, will preserve for open space those areas that are closest to the water and certainly some of those areas that are more sensitive. With that, let me turn it over to Mr. Wortman.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. My name is David Wortman. I am the Director of Environmental Services for VHB with offices in Hop Hog. VHB was retained by the applicant to prepare a Part 1 full environmental assessment form as well as an expanded environmental assessment report. That report is intended to supplement the Part 1 EAF and specifically to examine relevant key environmental impact topics. Specifically, the report includes discussion and analysis of impacts to soils and topography, subsurface conditions, stormwater and floodplains, ecological resources, land use and zoning, cultural resources, and traffic impacts. You already heard from my colleague, Mr. Lenahan, on the latter portion. You've also heard a lot from Mr. Walsh and Mr. Martins regarding the site layout and some of the key considerations there, so I'll try not to be duplicative of those. I also won't attempt to summarize all of the analyses presented in that expanded environmental document. It's been submitted, it's before the board, it's been reviewed by consultants to the board. But I do want to just call out a couple of key points and some of the key conclusions briefly. The concept plan that was put forward as part of this change of zone request would develop a land use at a portion of the subject property in a manner that's compatible with the established pattern of development in the area. Mr. Martins mentioned some of the other multifamily development throughout. That includes some that is directly opposite our site on the other side of Meadow Drive and on the same side of Broadway. The expanded environmental assessment includes a detailed summary, photographs, and discussion identifying several of those uses and comparing their character to that of what's considered here. The layout of the site is designed to provide substantial buffers and setbacks, 150-foot front yard setbacks on either side, 150-foot side yard setback to the west, 75-foot landscape setbacks, plus other buffers. And these substantial buffers and setbacks would serve to minimize any land use or zoning related impacts that may result. and minimize those to the maximum extent practicable. I'd also like to note that the portion of the site selected for development was chosen because it avoids sensitive environmental resources, such as wetlands and flood zones, and you've heard some of that already. But as a result, this proposed concept reflects the least impactful development footprint within the overall Woodmere Club property. Additionally, this configuration creates a substantial area of open space. Over 21 acres of open space would be created within the proposed CA zone. Those open space areas do contain some of those more sensitive resource areas, flood zones, wetlands, etc. Overall, the results of the expanded environmental assessment confirm that there would not be any significant adverse environmental impacts as a result of the proposed action, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions you may have.
I have a question, please.
Please.
So this development is going to be at the highest point? Is the
That's right.
development?
The site generally slopes from south to north to be higher near the Broadway road frontage. That's right.
Is that area specifically in a flood zone?
The area where the proposed development would occur, the northernmost portion that's visible on the screen here, where you have your buildings, parking, and these amenities, are on the highest portion of the site, and the building especially is outside of the flood zone. The overall development will be designed to conform to all of the town's flood zone development requirements.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions, Councilwoman?
Thank you.
So as was mentioned, this will be condominiums or owner occupied, which will require subdivision approvals. It's a major subdivision, which will require approval and application to the county through the Department of Public Works and the Department of Health. So they will oversee sampling and soil sampling and the like, and we understand that there are regulations that specifically cover those items. There will be a phase one. There are likely going to be a phase two as well, and we are committed, Mr. Supervisor and Board, to comply with every local, county, state, and federal requirement when it comes to meeting the health requirements with regard to the development of this site as well. This application, I would urge the board to consider is consistent with the board's CA residence zone. It exceeds those considerations that are in the code with regard to setbacks, with regard to the kinds of impacts that are expected from the CA residence zone, and minimizes them. We are not looking, as the CA residence zone would allow, 20 units per acre, but just about 4 units per acre with regard to the 34 units, not considering the overall 55 units. So well in keeping with those requirements. It is consistent with the prevailing condition in the community, which is multifamily residents, which are located immediately adjacent to the site, but also certainly within a quarter mile of this site. And so there are instances where this has been used, and certainly none that provide the kinds of setbacks that we're discussing here. And certainly we're not talking about the kind of density here that have been employed on those other sites. The opportunity that exists with regard to this particular application to preserve 21 acres of open space to provide for the kinds of setbacks and screening that we're discussing, but also with regard to the overall project, although it's not directly before the board for your consideration, but the consideration that there would be certainly upwards of 55 acres beyond the 21 that we're talking about here that would also be preserved as open space and preserved for the benefit, not only environmentally, because as we're aware, this is waterfront on the south shore of Nassau County, but also allow for that to the benefit of not only the residents immediately adjacent to the community, to this project, but also to the residents of the two villages that are ultimately part of this discussion. So with that, Mr. Supervisor and members of the board, I urge you to approve this application. Certainly, I'll answer whatever questions you may have. And to the extent that you will allow, I would ask for the opportunity once everyone has had an opportunity to comment, just to close out before we close the application.
Okay, all right, Mr. Martins, thank you very much. As you know, we have a number of residents who've signed up to speak tonight, and this is how we're going to do it. Every resident's entitled to 3 minutes. If you want to supplement it after your 3 minutes, you can do so in writing. I'm going to start with the first speaker. That will be Jake Harmon on this, and I'm going to then put somebody on deck on the other side. Sam Namias is on deck. So Jake Harmon, if you come up to the mic, and when you come to the mic, ladies and gentlemen, if you please be kind enough to identify yourself, give your name and your address for our court reporters taking down everything, and that is very helpful to her as well. He's on deck. Good morning, Mr. Harmon. You can give name and address and start it off.
Name is Jake Harmon, a mayor of Woodsburg. My address is 135 Willow Road in Woodsburg. Members of the town board, thank you for considering this application for changing the zoning to allow for an age-restricted development on the property formerly known as the Woodmere Country Club. The Woodmere Country Club and its golf course was a beloved part of our community. While we would have preferred for the country club to remain in operation indefinitely, we understand that the property was sold, the club has since closed, and that development is inevitable. It's been nearly a decade since the property changed hands, during which time several development proposals have been presented. Many of those proposals were not acceptable to our residents as they were inconsistent with the character of our community and its surroundings. In fact, the matter has been subject to long-standing unresolved litigation. We believe that this proposed age-restricted development, if executed thoughtfully, appears to be the most appropriate option for our community. It preserves a significant amount of landscaped open space, which aligns with the quiet and charming nature of our neighborhoods. Moreover, the over 55 concept meets a growing community need while attempting to minimize environmental impacts. Together with the property owners, we have held several meetings with residents of Woodsburg, Lawrence, and neighboring areas to review and discuss the proposal. We were encouraged to receive substantial support for the concept from those communities. Although the proposed development falls within the town of Hempstead portion of the property, its impact will be felt by the surrounding communities. Therefore, reaching agreement on related elements of the project, as well as resolving the ongoing litigation, is essential. These steps will help ensure that the final project addresses community concerns and preserves the character of our neighborhoods. Constructive discussions have been taking place among the involved parties to address project details and pursue resolution of the litigation. We respectfully ask that the board, in considering this zoning change, take into account the importance of a satisfactory outcome of these discussions and negotiations. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, I'm going to have Sam Namias speak, and on deck, if I could have Stephen Gottesman. Mr. Namias, please.
Good morning, Supervisor Clavin, members of the board, and councils. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today about the future of the Woodmere Club property, a matter that has sparked passionate debate, legal challenges, and deep community concern for nearly a decade. Since taking office as mayor, my priority has been to bring our village back to the fundamentals of good governance, including resolving long-standing litigation. Over the past year, I've attended public meetings in both Lawrence and Woodsburg, and I've listened carefully to the voices on all sides of the issues. Today, I'm here to share that feedback. The overwhelming majority of input I've received supports the proposed development of the 160 age-restricted condominiums for adults aged 55 and older. Many see this as the least disruptive path forward. The proposal preserves existing cul-de-sacs and street layouts, protecting the character and flow of the surrounding neighborhoods in Lawrence, Woodsburg, and Hempstead. In contrast, a large-scale single-family development would require significant infrastructure changes and result in prolonged disruption. Residents have also voiced strong concerns about the strain additional single-family homes would place on local resources. More vehicles, increased traffic, and higher demand on utilities and public services. The condo plan with smaller, often part-time households offer a far lighter footprint and year-round impact. Most importantly, this project supports the natural cycle of a thriving community. It allows older residents to downsize and remain near their family and friends while freeing up single-family homes for younger families eager to establish roots here. The balance is essential to sustaining the vibrancy and future of our villages. After nearly 10 years of legal and planning disputes, we are at a pivotal moment. While the final decision rests with the appropriate boards, I believe it's important to reflect the thoughtful, forward-looking sentiment I've heard from so many in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. You're passing? All right. So next I have Murray Foreman, and on deck is Jerry Castro. So, Jerry, if you go over to that, that'd be awesome. Thank you. Hey, Murray. If you name and address, please. Thank you.
Yes. Good morning. Murray Foreman, 291 Ocean Avenue, Lawrence, New York. I'm here as a first and foremost resident of Lawrence, also reporting in my capacity as a member of the Nassau County Planning Commission about a meeting that was held on this topic last week, as well as I'm also the president of School District 15 in Lawrence. At our recent Planning Commission, I'm happy to report that the Planning Commission overwhelmingly, unanimously approved the zoning referral that was before us, predicate to today's meeting. Clearly, the Planning Commission, while we is enthusiastic about a potential building block and resolution of this longstanding issue, and again, I just want to reiterate something that Mr. Martins alluded to earlier, that the project, which will be considered a major subdivision, will find its way back before the Planning Commission in the future, should it progress beyond today's hearing. The rest of my comments I will make in my individual capacity. I've been an observer and involved in this process for pretty much since inception of the dispute regarding the development of the Woodmere property, and certainly am here today to express my strong support for going for this change of zone as a building block to facilitate the, as people have alluded to it, the least invasive development opportunity, in my opinion, for this project. Obviously, the devil is in the details, and we will certainly count on the town and the villages to ensure, as well as the county, to ensure that all environmental boxes are checked, traffic concerns are addressed, and that indeed, other than the proposed apartments, that the entirety of the remainder of the site remains empty, open, not open, and secure, so that it can serve as its function, which is as I've often referred to, the lung and the sponge of the 5 towns. Thank you very much, and I urge the board to approve today's application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Furman. I have Jerry Castro, and on deck on this side, we have Camilla Russell. If you can give me name and address for the record, thank you very much.
Good morning, Town Supervisor, Council people. My name is Jerry Castro, Village Administrator for the Village of Lawrence, 196 Central Avenue, Lawrence, New York, 11559. I'll be very brief. I just want to advise the board that when the first proposal came before the board, I was the deputy administrator. So I had the opportunity to review a lot of the plans, the details of what was being proposed, and I can honestly say that over the years, a lot has changed. I think a lot of parties put in a lot of time and effort getting to this point, and I believe what's before the board today will have a favorable outcome while mitigating a lot of the concerns that are shared by all the adjoining communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Russell, and on deck, I'm going to have, Islet Potash. Good morning, sir. If you give your name and address for the record.
Morning, everyone. My name's Russ Como. I live in Rockaway, but I'm the president of the South Shore Autobahn in Freeport. I have some exciting news to share today. I think we all know the symbol of our country, the bald eagle. But what you might not know is that a pair of bald eagles had a baby on the open space at the Woodmere Club in March. And it goes to show that if we set aside nature for the wildlife, they will come back and they will appreciate it and they will be able to use that space. At the same time, it will prevent floods from damaging the area. So it's a win-win. The bald eagle's 3 months old today. It is adult size, but it has a couple of years before it can have babies of its own until it matures. But the pair of eagles that had the baby, they'll come back next year to the Woodmere Club and try to have more babies there. And they'll keep coming back as long as they're successful. So let's keep this land for them, and let's keep this land open for other wildlife that wants to come back there, because they're running out of spaces to go like this. So everything I hear today sounds great. It's truly a project that balances development on the flood-proof section, on the highland, on the upland, with conservation on the sponge, as people are talking about it. And in that same area, again, the wildlife are going to love it there. I know there's a lot of details to work out, and I hope I'll be able to work with the group and some of those details that are more important to conservation, and maybe restoring some of the area with native plants and things like that. It's not expensive to do that. Just like the eagles, once you give nature a chance, it kind of takes care of itself. So I hope things continue along these lines, and it looks like a good project. We talked about 21 acres of open space that is in the Hempstead town, but I believe what I've heard overall is there's 115 acres of open space that will be set aside. So I'm all for that. So thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. The next I have is Islet Potash. Okay. Ephraim Rudman. Mr. Rudman, if you go to that podium right there. And she's on deck. There we go. Great. I'm going to have you switch over, so I gave you the wrong direction there.
There you go.
That's on me. Foreman, he messed up, but now that one's on me, all right? Ma'am, if you give your name and address.
Hi, my name is Ayelet Potash, and I live at 2 Sherwood Lane in Cedarhurst, New York. My property directly backs the golf course. I have 5 young children under the age of 7, and I strongly support this plan, and I hope that you guys consider it and vote yes on this proposal. I also just wanted to read a statement from Rena Safra, who resides at 23 Iris Street in Cedarhurst, also backing the golf course. She says, "Hi, I'm sorry I am unable to attend this meeting in person. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all our hardworking Town of Hempstead officials who have listened to the community's concerns and worked diligently and hand in hand with the villages of Lawrence and Woodsburg to bring this well-thought-out plan to fruition. While it is impossible to please everyone, I feel that the delicate balance between development and land preservation has been achieved. While there are still details that will need to be ironed out, I trust that our elected officials will continue to heed the concerns of its constituents. Thank you once again for moving this forward.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. We appreciate you coming out today. Next, I'm going to have Ephraim, and on deck, I have Frank Argento. If Frank, you go to that mic over there. Good morning. If you give your name and address.
Morning. Ephraim Rudman. I'm a resident at 576 Atlantic Avenue in Lawrence, which is immediately adjacent to the area formerly known as the Woodmere Club. I have been actively involved in discussions with my neighbors as well, who are also immediately adjacent to the property, some of whom are here. I appreciate the opportunity to be heard. What I note is this has obviously been a very long and difficult path getting to this point. I would reiterate some of what others have said up till now, that this is clearly the best resolution in terms of addressing this. And I have to say, in terms of something that has been so contentious, arriving at something that's so balanced is, I want to commend the people who have been so thoughtful around this, our elected officials, the developers working together. And I would say that this is clearly something that I personally support and believe a number of my neighbors support very strongly. Obviously, we've been talking a lot around Hempstead in terms of how the open space, the additional open space in Lawrence and Woodsburg is preserved. But I believe this really addresses the community's needs and appreciate the opportunity to be heard. Thank you
very much. I appreciate it. I'm going to have Frank go next, and then I'm going to have Lynn Almala on deck, if you don't mind, at that mic over there. If you, sir, give your name and address.
Chairman of the board, Don Clavin, and members of the board, Frank Argento, 5 Stable Lane of Lawrence, New York, also Chief Operating Officer of the Rockaway Hunt Club. We're here today to show our support in the preliminary plan that's been presented to the board. Also, extremely excited about all the open space that are going to be abutted our club. That's basically all I have to say, and I thank everyone, especially the villagers, working together. We all want to resolve this in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to have Lynn go, and on deck, I'm going to have Howard Oshinsky, please, at that podium. Good morning, ma'am. Name and address. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Okay. I wish to make a record.
Do you name and address, though? I just got to get that from you.
Lynn.
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 Right.
Almeller.
How do you spell that?
Almелeh.
And where do you live?
11 Lotus Street, Cedarhurst, New York.
Awesome. Thank you.
11516. I wish to make a record of the following. I am firmly opposed to the construction of 160 units on the former Woodmere Golf Course, to include an additional provision for 300 cars. I live on Lotus Street and will be impacted considerably and irreparably by this inappropriate and negligent construction. I believe the town of Hempstead has been bamboozled into entertaining the buyer's proposal without due consideration of the impact it will have. For one thing, I have never seen the environmental impact statement, although I live a block away from the golf course, which has, by the way, never been provided, to the best of my knowledge, to those individuals who live adjacent to the golf course. I have never been provided with a website which might include that impact statement. I have several questions. Who prepared this document, and at whose expense, and on whose behalf? Clearly not the citizens. Did the county provide its own environmental impact statement? Did they have their own engineers looking at the statement in a critical manner? I don't think so. I believe the environmental impact statement, in fact, was prepared by a hired gun, willing to say anything. And the naivete of the town of Hempstead, willing to believe anything, demonstrates that the town of Hempstead is asleep at the switch. This, for the first time, was an opportunity for me to hear about the impact that this new development will develop in terms of traffic. Well, guess what? Saturday and Sunday are certainly not dispositive of the traffic flow during the week. Did anyone come to Broadway during daytime hours, particularly in the afternoon. The traffic is so egregious that you cannot make a left turn from Lotus Street onto Broadway, even at 6:30 in the morning, the time I used to leave my home for work. How can you even get an emergency vehicle down this street? You cannot, unless you decide to drive up on the curb and onto someone's grass.
All right, ma'am, you can supplement the rest of your comments in writing. It'll be made part of the record. I promise you that, okay?
Okay, how
Thank
do I do that?
Brian Devine, where are you, Brian? So, somebody from the clerk's office is going to take that for you. Thank you very much. All right. So I have Lynn. Okay, folks. I'm going to have, thank you, Lynn. Howard Oshinsky, are you here? Oh, no, folks. Howard Oshinsky? Okay. Next I have Stephen Fuchs. And on deck is Ryan Stoller. Okay, who said pass? Okay. So I have Stevens coming up, and then I'm going to have Erica Goodstein on deck, please. Good morning, sir. If you give your name and address.
Hi, my name is Stephen Fuchs, living at 30 Meadow Drive. Thank you for taking the time to hear us. While the development does look beautiful and amazing, unfortunately, I live there, and the road simply cannot accommodate 160 units and a minimum of 300 cars, no matter what they claim their traffic studies say. The people who spoke talked about not changing the demographics because there's another building on Meadow. That's simply not presented accurately. The neighborhood is almost predominantly single-family homes, and this would significantly change the characteristic of the neighborhood. Widening Broadway, as suggested, would cause additional bottlenecking. I urge the board to please consider this. It simply cannot accommodate, and this will detrimentally cause harm to the immediate and wider community. It's not a modest traffic impact. As they said, there were tests being done during holidays and other times. I know that some of you asked about entrances and exits, but the answer wasn't not very clear. One of the individuals did say at first there was only an entrance and exit off Broadway, and then when you pushed them, the answer changed to clearly being an access on an entrance and an exit on Meadow as well. We request that the street not be widened, Meadow or Broadway. I'm not sure how 300 cars would fit, and I ask that you don't consider I ask that if it's considered, the entrance on Meadow be removed, or at the very least only be considered for service vehicles. There's no such thing as limited access. People could enter and exit as much as they want. One of the individuals mentioned 2.5 to 3 stories based on the grading of the land. It seems that there may be portion that's higher than 2 or 3 stories further back. And I ask that you require them to keep the height requirement throughout the building if considered, no matter where it is on the land. The Village of Lawrence spoke about how much effort they put in and how they successfully negotiated what I believe is nothing being built on the village side of and Cedar side of Lawrence. The entire project is being pushed into the town of Hempstead. They set 150 setback off of Meadow, but did not mention the setback off of the Lawrence and Cedarhurst side. I ask that you help and work for everybody and require, if considered, that the development be placed in the center of the land, not to one side and exclude the Lawrence and Cedarhurst side. I think it's important to limit the number of bedrooms as the board mentioned. They're claiming it will be a 55 and above development versus family housing. And if that's really the case, and if they really intend that to be, I think the limit to bedrooms should be a maximum of 2. The Village of Cedarhurst and the Village of Lawrence homes backing the club land have spoken in favor of the development and have somehow negotiated compensation for those homes heavily impacted.
Thank you, sir. You can supplement everything in writing with an email. We'll make it part of the record, so please do so. I have Erica Goodstein. Ladies and gentlemen, when we applaud, you're going to take away the time of people to speak. So we have Ms. Goodstein, and then Stephen Feldman is going to be on deck. Good morning, ma'am. Give your name and address. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Erica Goodstein. I live at 14 Hawthorne Lane in Lawrence, and my property is one of the properties that are directly adjacent to the Woodmere property. I want to, first just voice my strong and full support for the Woodmere plan that's been proposed today. I also want to say that I think that, I've been involved in this and hearing the different sides and, have had the opportunity to speak and be involved and, speak with elected officials and the developers. And I think that after, almost 10 years, we've reached a compromise that's good for almost everyone. I think that it would be extremely unrealistic and to turn back time and wish that this had never happened. I also think that stating that those on this board have been bamboozled or somehow, insinuating that they've been paid off is insulting to the hard work of the professionals and the dedicated elected officials. Unfounded accusations are unhelpful to this dialogue. I think the gentleman who just spoke raised some, really valid concerns. I'm not the one to speak to them. But when it comes to addressing details of when traffic studies were conducted, details about bedrooms and a lot of other things that you raised, I think that those are valid and I think they should be, the details should be addressed by those who have that information, including who conducted the environmental impact studies, perhaps giving people the opportunity to take a look at them. But I think that overall, it's unrealistic to think that this is going to go back to completely being nature. And I think that all in, this is a fair, balanced, and reasonable plan that I support, and I thank you all for considering it.
Thank you very much. Good seeing you. Next, I have Stephen Feldman, and on deck on this side, I'm going to have Hannah Birdie. Good morning.
Morning, Stephen Feldman, 50 Wyckoff Place, Woodmere. I apologize not looking at the board, but I'm just going to be reading some notes that I took from my phone. The gentleman that spoke regarding the traffic study understood the religious aspect of the community, which would cause an additional traffic study to be done on Sunday. I would like the board to consider requesting the traffic study to be done additionally on a Friday. As from my perspective, that is one of the more busier days during peak hours, especially in the afternoon, and not on a Sunday. Secondly, the two entrances on Broadway that were stated to, I believe they were stated to allow left turns and right turns into the development. In regards to the left turns, I believe that if there will be left turns going into the development, it would cause a significant delay on Broadway, and that in previous village meetings, I believe possibly at the Village of Woodsburg, they discussed potentially providing 10 feet or 15 feet of land to the town of Hempstead to allow a right turn lane. I'm not sure if that's still being discussed, but I think they should also look into that in regards to a left turn lane. So just to be clear, for the two entrances on Broadway, for them to potentially widen the road for left turns and right turns, since they're allowing both of those on a one lane roadway. Lastly, just for the board, just for the town to understand that each person that's speaking, everybody has their own view, their own perspective, and I hope that they all take everything into account, as well as anyone that's speaking, to see where that address is located and if there is a benefit to that address, whether it's the development no longer being built in Cedarhurst or in Lawrence, or that house getting additional 50 feet of land, just for everything to be considered. I personally think that this could be a great opportunity for the local community, as long as it's done right and the devil is in the details. So whether it's enforcing right turn lanes, whether it's enforcing specific turns only on Meadow, or how entrances and exits are being handled, I just really hope that the town can really pay close attention and really enforce everything that is being stated. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Feldman. Next, I have Hannah Birdie, and on deck, I'm going to have Alexandra Farberblum. On deck, please. Good morning. If you name an address. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Hannah Birdie. I live at 125 Lefferts Road in Woodmere. I am an urban planner and a real estate developer and a resident of this community. I want to commend both the developers and the town of Hempstead for listening to the residents and going back to the drawing board. But I'd like to point out a few things that seems to be glossed over here. 55 years and over is not that old. 55-year-olds have school-age children. There will be children, there will be teenagers, there will be recent college graduates living with them. Over 400 parking spots means there will be over 400 cars on our roads. Our neighborhood is woefully underinvested. Our infrastructure is crumbling. It can barely handle the number of homes and residents we already have. Not only do we have our residents using our institutions, we have people from out of town coming in to shop at our stores, at our grocery stores, attend our schools. No studies have actually looked at the impact on the schools. We have a large amount of private schools, not just public schools. And so the traffic on those roads, I appreciate the comments that were made for pickup times for children. A drive that should take me 6 minutes to make to pick my children up every day takes 3 to 4 times that amount. It impacts people's ability to go about their everyday lives. I agree, the devil is in the details. And I'd like you to remember that better does not mean best. I'd like to see full mitigation studies. I think that the traffic impacts were woefully under-investigated. I think that actually looking at the impacts and benefits to the community is important. How will our community actually benefit? Saying you're filling a need for 55 plus residents makes absolutely no sense. 55-year-olds live in the single-family houses that we already have. You want to create a retirement community? This isn't that. They keep calling it age-restricted in order to use a pretty name to pull wool over your eyes. I appreciate that you've come to the table to discuss these things, but I'd like you to actually consider all of the details of putting 400-plus cars on a road in and out. Broadway is a 2-lane road that already has a substantial amount of single-family houses, and if you ask the people who live there, they can barely get into their own homes. They can barely get out of their driveways. I've tried to get down that road all the time. It is a severe impact on our lives, and I'd like you to not just blindly approve things, but actually think about what the amount of cars on the roads, and just the last thing, that not being on a flood zone does not mean that
You can supplement with writing, and I thank you very much. I have Alexander Farberblum, and on deck, I'm going to have Karen Keating, please. Good morning, if you give your name and address.
Sure. Hi, my name is Alexandra Farbenblum. I reside at 190 Ivy Hill Road in the village of Woodsburg, and I am directly impacted as I can see the Woodmere Club from my home and drive through the neighborhood on a daily basis, shuffling my young children around. I want to commend the developers and the Village of Woodsburg Board for getting to this point, and the town of Hempstead for even considering this application. I'm in full support of this plan as it stands now, as it maintains the character of our wonderful Woodsburg. If you live there, you'll actually know how wonderful it is, while also filling a need in our growing community. Thank you very much.
Next, I have Ms. Keating, and on deck, I am going to have Robert Schechter, please. Good morning, if you give your name and address.
Good morning, my name is Karen Keating, and I live at 262 Berkshire Place in Lawrence, relatively near the Woodmere Club grounds, and have lived here for 25 years. I am an interested neighbor seeking to ensure that the potential acreage, which will be preserved as open, non-developable, deed-restricted land, unquote, will in fact be so. The risk of flooding from Brosware Bay is real, constant, and has become more acute every year. As such, a buffer of permanently wild land is critical to protect both the proposed new housing and the streets and existing homes which surround the Woodmere Club today. My questions are two. What is the language in the deed of the quote-unquote protected land? If permanent, the land is required to place a conservation easement on the land to be protected. That means it needs to be held by an unrelated party, usually a municipality, a village or town, or a qualified conservation organization. What is that language? I know that a lot of the details have not yet been worked out, but I think this is quite an important one. And second, how is the land intended to be maintained? Will it be mowed? Will it be fenced and left to grow wild? Converted to a maritime grassland with native plants that would increase biodiversity and absorb stormwater runoff and perhaps attract the bald eagles back? Answers to these questions are important to the future effectiveness of our coastal ecosystems. Thank you for your interest and commitment to enhance our community with this project.
Thank you very much, Ms. King. Next, I have Robert Schechter, and on deck, I'm going to have Jennifer Wallace, please. Good morning. If you give your name and address for the record.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Robert Schechter, and I reside at 849 Central Avenue in Woodmere. I am also the chairman of the board of a local synagogue called Irving Place Minyan. Irving Place Minyan is a fast-growing 220-plus member family synagogue with hundreds of children. IPM has been praying at the Woodmere Club for the better part of 5 years. While I'm not here in my official capacity, I will say that I strongly support the change of zoning.
Okay, thank you very much. I have Jennifer Wallace, and on deck, I'm going to have Jonathan Gottlieb. Good morning. Name and address. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Jennifer Wallace. I live at 200 Burton Lane in Lawrence and have been there for 23 years. I am an interested resident as our property is somewhat near the former Woodmere Club. I would like to point out that while in a perfect world, nothing would be developed and the space would remain open, this is privately owned, and we do need to accept that there will be some development. With that, I would say that from my perspective, this is an optimal outcome to balance both the commercial rights of the developers and the important needs, as Karen Keating pointed out, of having open space that is preserved and deeded unbuildable. So while I recommend wholeheartedly the support of the zoning change, I recommend it with the caveat that the preserved space must also be deeded as such. And then, as has been mentioned by so many people today, the devil is always in the details, and we have no choice but to expect and put those detailed negotiations on you, and to hope that you will be very thoughtful each step of the way. In addition, I'd just like to say I have 71 letters from residents of Lawrence who also fully support this hybrid solution of a community, age-restricted condominium complex combined with a deeded, never-to-be-developed preserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I have Mr. Gottlieb, and on deck, I'm going to have Anna Aldestein, please. Good morning, sir. Your name and address for the record.
My name is Jonathan Gottlieb, and I reside at 19 Copper Beach Lane in Lawrence. My property backs directly onto the golf course. I feel that the age-restricted condos with the preservation of open space is the best plan for the community out of all possible options, and I am strongly in favor of it being approved. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. I know I'm going to have Anna, and I'm on deck. I'm going to ask Andrew Dewey over here, please. Hi.
Morning.
Name and address.
Sorry?
Name and address. Morning.
Good morning. My name's Anna Edelstein. I live at 310 Ivy Hill Road in Woodsburg, which is further south on the road on the right from the development, and it's directly adjacent to the southern part of the Woodmere Club. For the last year, I've been at basically all of the local meetings that Woodsburg has held addressing the proposed development. I can say that at the first of those meetings, a little over a year ago, there was a swell of opposition in our community, largely from my neighbors on Ivy Hill. And then over the course of this year, the developers have heeded the community's concerns, made concessions, and updated their plans significantly. They've increased their setbacks, they've accounted for traffic concerns, and at the last few meetings, there was unanimous consent among the residents in attendance to support the proposed development. As a lawyer, I can tell you that I think this is an excellent resolution to a lengthy legal dispute between the parties. And as a young resident who plans to live down the block for many years, I think it's more than just a great compromise, but a benefit as a whole to the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Andrew Dewey. Okay. Next, I'm going to ask Bonnie Polanski. to please come to Bonnie. Okay, I'm going to have you go there, and on deck, I'm going to have Jason Lieber. Good morning, if you name and
Hi,
address.
good morning. Thank you so much. Sorry I didn't prepare anything to speak, but I live at 41 Wood Lane on the corner of Porter Place and Wood Lane. What I think is not being taken into account at all is the impact this is going to have on Porter Place, which is a tiny, narrow, one-lane road that as of now, people already use as a through street to avoid the traffic on Broadway. Somebody was hit by a car on that street some years back. And I think if there's an entrance on Meadow, what's going to happen due to the immense amount of traffic on Broadway, which I find it really unbelievable. The traffic study was done during popular school days. And when I personally have been driving my daughters from my home to Shalamith High School, which is in Woodmere, which should be a 2 to 3 minute drive. My daughter had to be in school at 8:20. I had to leave my house by 7:50 in order to make sure that she was in school on time. This is not reasonable now to add 400 cars to an already very, very busy block. And even if they manage to widen Broadway on 2 blocks, so we're going to have merging cars going from a 1-lane to a 2-lane and back to a 1-lane road. In addition to the dangers on Meadow that has no sidewalks, Wood Lane has no sidewalks. I personally have fought with the school district when my daughter almost got hit by a car when she got off the bus on Broadway because the buses say that they could not go down and drop off any closer to my home, that was where the bus stop was. So children have to walk down Wood Lane and Meadow with no sidewalks. Now we're going to add immense amount of cars and trucks that will be now as a service entrance. Presumably trucks will be going down that road on a regular basis. So where is the safety for our children? And the now 400 cars that will be added to that area. I understand that there has to be a compromise, but I think the safety of the community and the safety of the children who are walking on those streets, as the buses will not come down and children have to walk up to Broadway, where the buses now stop on Broadway. Children have to cross Broadway just to get on the bus. So the buses now are stopping on Broadway. You already have heavy traffic due to the bus stops being on Broadway itself, now adding a tremendous amount of traffic. And Porter Place is a cut-through street where people are trying to avoid that. Traffic on Broadway is now going to make it unbearable, where there are no sidewalks. And as of now, it's already something that I have to be concerned when I back out of my driveway on Porter Place, that sometimes it's hard to back out with cars going the wrong way down that one-way street. So I would appreciate if another study can be conducted through the town of Hempstead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Polanski. Next, I have Jason Lieber, and on deck, I have Paris Popak.
Yes, hi, Jason Lieber, 28-hour back lane in Lawrence. I back the Woodmere Golf Course. I also have I'm a business owner at 1067 Broadway in Woodmere. Many people think that the job of town officials is to forecast, is to figure out what things are going to look like in the future. But in reality, the job of town officials are to backcast, are to try to figure out what type of community, what do you want the community to look at in 20 or 30 years, and try to figure out and make all the right moves that make it possible. And I just really, there are certainly valid concerns. I think everybody understands the traffic situation in the 5 towns. But currently, if the town would vote no on this proposal, you're going back to where there will be 59 mega homes on the entire 100+ acre property. Everybody who came up with a concern about the entrance and the exit and all these different traffic situations haven't addressed the alternative, which is 59 homes. There are homes in Lawrence that have been under construction for 17 years. The amount of infrastructure that would need to be built for just 59 homes would take, and the amount of time it would take to sell these homes would be 20 years. We'd have 20 years of construction, of trucks, of issues. Each of these homes would have at least 5-6 cars per property. There would be school buses. A 55-year-old community will have minimal children there. This is the target audience, the target customer for this development is not a young family. It's somebody whose kids are grown up and moved out, who could downsize into a smaller home. And there's a lot of ways to address it. But I would just say this, I really just think that the current situation right now would take away the green, take away all the green space, would cause our American Eagles to go homeless, would cause tremendous gridlock and tremendous stress on our community. And anybody who wants to say that there's an issue with this with this proposal, if you're going to vote this proposal down, we're back to 59 homes, which would be a vote that you want this community in 10 or 20 years to look like one of those New York City areas where there's no green, there's terrible traffic, and you can't move anywhere. So I urge that you vote in favor of this proposal.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Next, I'm going to have Paris Popak. Before I have Paris speak, I don't have any other slips of people who would like to speak. If there's someone who would like to speak that did not sign up, I'm going to ask you to go to that podium in the back to speak after Paris, if there is one. Ms. Popak, good morning.
Yeah, hi. Is this working? Oh, yes.
There you go.
Okay. I don't know if it's afternoon, but I have good morning written down. I'll say both.
Still with morning,
Good
Paris.
afternoon. Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Clavin and the Town of Hempstead Board for hearing us. And thank you to all the concerned citizens and voters who are here today. I am Paris Popak, a community advocate who has lived in Lawrence for 30 years. For 7 years, I've been actively fighting against the overdevelopment of the Woodmere Club property, working to prevent it from becoming the sixth town. I did this as Lawrence Association president and later as Village of Lawrence trustee and then deputy mayor. I am grateful to the Village of Lawrence, the Village of Woodsburg, and the Town of Hempstead for creating the Coastal Conservation District in 2020. I am also grateful to Mario Joseph and Rena Safra of the Five Town CA, and I am certainly grateful to all the concerned residents who have supported the cause and have shown up to voice their opinions today and along the way. It's been a really long road. Truthfully, I really wish the property would have remained a golf course and open land. I wish it would have been an eminent domain property. I also wish the developers would have sold the property to our community. But realizing that some development has a serious possibility, the 55 and over project seems to be the better option with the big bonus of open land preserve. Hannah is correct. 55 and over, people still do have children that still will bring school buses into that area. But points to consider for your decision. There must never be construction on the preserved open space, ever. What kind of agreements will be in place to prevent this and from the land being sold? Okay, so it was said 115 acres, I think it's 83. I'm hearing different numbers. I'm not really sure how much is open space. But my other question would be, are the developers planning to sell any of this land to the Rockaway Hunt Club? And if they do, there must be provisions in place to prevent that land from being developed? Environmentally, will you be working with Nelson Pope Engineering for checks and balances on the issue of traffic studies, etc.? We need to save the green space in our community and never let anything be built there. Who is going to manage the open green space? For the longest time, the developers had a deal or an agreement with North Shore Land Alliance. I'm not sure where that is now, but we definitely need a third party, a proper third party to steward the open spaces. We can't have the co-op board managing the land. I don't think that makes any sense at all. I think 160 condos is still a bit too much, and the reason for that is the car factor. I think it's just way too many cars to bring into the area. I mean, I do support the concept overall. Okay.
Okay. Ms. Popak, as always, you know you can always supplement with anything in email and writing. I appreciate it. All right. I do not have any other slips of anybody else who wants to speak at this hearing. Is there anybody that wishes to speak who did not sign in? Please, you're going to come back to the mic there and give your name and address. Lucille, and good morning.
Hi, good morning. My name is Carol Braunstein. I live at 67 Prospect Avenue, which is on the corner of Broadway and Prospect. I've lived there for over 30 years. So let me just read this. So Turning onto Broadway has always been very challenging for me and my neighbors. It's a very wide street, and five-towners love to go down that street. It goes from West Broadway to Broadway. I just wanted to say that as this project moves forward, if you could respectfully consider putting a traffic light there. I think it would be really, it's a safety issue, and it would be great for the community, and that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Anybody else wish to be heard that didn't sign in? Did you want to speak? Did you speak already? Hi, did you speak already or no?
No, I did not.
Okay, give your name and address. Morning.
Deborah Levinson, 20 Meadow Drive in Woodsburg. My husband and I have been at that location on Meadow Drive since 1978. So we're pretty much experts on the demography of the area. In that time, the population of our area has probably tripled or quadrupled. Those apartment buildings that were built 75 to 100 years ago, when there were probably still horse and carriages in the area. We don't have the road space. Our access to driving is on Broadway, all of us. Broadway is a 2-lane little road. It's 2 miles between Meadow Drive and Piermont in Hewlett. That used to take 2 to 5 minutes. Now it takes half an hour. We have no other access. Adding all that homes is almost sacrilege to our community, to our comfort. It's sacrificing the time, the lifetime of thousands of people daily for the benefit of 2 land developers. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Going once, going twice?
Yes, Mr. Clavin.
Yep.
May I speak?
Yeah, name and address, thanks.
My name is Pamela Rossman. My address is 14 Woodmere Boulevard South. I've been a resident of 14 Woodmere Boulevard South since 1967. I'm very old. I want to thank the town board for their work on this project, for the presentations, and for the insightful comments made by the residents. However, I do believe that there is need for further investigation and further research. There are too many factors, and as has been said before, the devil is in the details. Notwithstanding the environmental considerations, the intense flooding that spans from Keene Lane, the perimeter of the course, all the way to the Woodmere dock, the traffic, and now, as I understand it, at the intersection of, I believe, Grove and Broadway, where the Bethel Synagogue is situated, there is now a religious school. So there will be additional school buses going down Broadway. When I am trying to turn from Woodmere Boulevard onto Broadway, I have approximately 30 seconds before the traffic light changes, whereas the Broadway traffic is over 3 minutes. The traffic is unbearable. Woodmere has become the stepchild of this project. Of course, the residents of Lawrence and Woodsburg are pleased to support the project, but not 1 ounce or 1 acre of development is going to be in the villages. It's going to be Woodmere. Our community is already overloaded with health-related facilities. We have the Esplanade. We have the Woodmere Premier. We have numerous registries and ambulances that are going back and forth down Central Avenue and Broadway day and night because our hospitals are more than several miles away. And the closest one, as I understand it, is in another borough, the city of New York. So we're asking, please, to reconsider all aspects before voting. Once you make the decision to rezone that property, the die has been cast. And we hope the residents of Woodmere Boulevard South and the other members of the community that you will do your due diligence and work with the community to make sure that we have the proper alternatives.
Thank you very much. Okay. That's it. Mr. Martins?
Thank you, Supervisor Clavin. I also wanted to thank all of the members of the community who came out and expressed their opinions. I just wanted to reiterate a comment, and I want to thank Mr. Lieber for hitting the point. The alternative to the change of zone is not nothing. The alternative to the change of zone is the current zone, which allows 59 large homes to be placed on this property, irrespective of elevation and exiting per the code, not onto Broadway, but onto Meadow. And so the alternative that we're talking about and what's being proposed here today conceptually, because we are discussing a change of zone, is an opportunity to minimize the impacts. And I want to thank the board, Supervisor, I want to thank you and your staff, and I want to thank the villages, and frankly, the developers as well, who came together. And as has been stated over and over and over again from residents here today, who met with the communities, who sat with the communities, who listened to the residents, who changed their proposal, and who thoughtfully minimized the impacts in a way that I think we heard today was thoughtful. Now, we're never gonna make everyone happy, and yes, the details are important. But I would urge the board to consider this as the proper compromise and proper resolution and proper care for what's best for the community when it comes to traffic, parking, and impact. And to answer the question about open space, Mr. Supervisor and board, it will be deed restricted. It will not be under the control of the developers. It will be decided by the town and frankly the villages as to how that will be handled, and the developer is prepared to do exactly that. It will not be in their control. And whether it is wild and whether it is maintained and mowed, that is entirely up to the consideration of the town and the villages, and we're prepared to do whatever you feel is best. And so with that, again, I want to thank this board for your consideration and urge you, given the traffic study, which was performed on weekends and on weekdays, given the environmental impact statement and given the testimony that we've heard from the professionals who testified here today, to give favorable consideration to this change of zone. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Supervisor, may I make a comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to commend all of the residents who came out today to make their comments, whether you're for or against the project or relevant. What I would like to point out, and thank you all for being respectful of your neighbors' opinions when differing. We've had public hearings where it was quite contentious because people feel very passionately one way or the other. But everyone here today presented their opinions being respectful of their neighbors, and I'd like to point that out and thank you.
All right, with that, if I have a motion.
I move the public hearing be closed and that the board reserve decision at this time.
Okay, can I get a second on that?
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Councilman Schneider.
Aye. Okay, just so the residents know, the decision's been reserved. That means there has been no formal decision made. You can supplement anything in writing. As we said, you can email to the town. It will be considered, it will be reviewed, it will be read before any vote's taken. And to basically say what the councilman did, I want to thank all of you for coming out today and enjoy your 4th of July. Next, I'm going to call the next item on the calendar.
Yes, we have the application of 1587 Elmont Realty Corporation for a special exception pursuant to Section 196N of the Building Zone Ordinance to permit a public garage for an automated car wash facility, automotive detailing center, and accessory retail area in Elmont.
Okay. Counselor, if you want to start it up.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. William Benesso for Shelley Deegan Tarana, 333 Earl Ovington Boulevard, Uniondale, New York, here on behalf of the applicant, 1587 Elmont Realty Corp. That corporation is the owner of the premises at 1587 Hempstead Turnpike in Elmont. Seated to my right are Mr. Danny and Emery Ochak. They are the principals of that, and they will be operating the facility should the board grant the relief being requested today. The property in question is situated at the southwest corner of Hempstead Turnpike and Belmont Boulevard in Elmont. It is 11,220,000 square feet in size. It is situated in the Business X district, but it is subject to the gasoline service station overlay district, which is presently on the property and permitted the previous use of the property, which was a gasoline service station and automotive repair shop. The property as presently developed has a building that was associated with that use with overhead doors. That building was approximately 3,000 square feet in size. Yeah, a little over 3,000 square feet in size. Property is fully paved, and it presently maintains 4 curb cuts, 2 for ingress and egress on Hempstead Turnpike, 2 for ingress and egress on Belmont Boulevard. The applicants are proposing to replace the existing building and a shed in the back, remove the shed, remove the existing building, and instead build a new, smaller building, 2,800 square feet and change, on the property for an automated express car wash facility. The building will be similarly shaped as the existing one, but it will actually be pushed closer to Hempstead Turnpike in order to provide the circulation to the rear of the building for entry into the car wash tunnel. That said, the building will still meet all required setback requirements for the Business X district. The building will have, the main portion of the building will be an automated car wash tunnel that the vehicles will enter and run through. There, the washing and drying of the vehicle will occur. To the right or the east of that building is about a 300 square foot, actually 366 square foot building, which is for storage and mechanical equipment. To the left or west of the tunnel is a 521 square foot area, which will be for a unisex handicapped capable bathroom, as well as for a small retail area for air fresheners and other accessories that are typically found in an automotive car wash facility. There'll be a counter with an attendant there. And then to the west of that is another 640 square foot area, which will be a detailing center that can accommodate 2 vehicles. This facility will be, I called it an express car wash facility because it is really quite that. Vehicles come in, they get in the queue, they are, the payment is addressed at a kiosk on the queue line where credit card payments are taken. This is not a cash facility. Many of the customers will be members of a car wash club where they basically have a sticker or a tag on their windshield, and it reads that. They go through. They never exit their car. They enter the car wash. They're guided into the car wash by somebody who's basically power washing their vehicle. They enter the car wash. The tracks take over, take the car through. At the end of the tunnel, there's a pretty significant drying system, blowers that blow most of the water off of the car, and then they pull out and they will exit onto Hempstead Turnpike. The entrance to the property will be from the westerly curb cut on Hempstead Turnpike. It will be entrance only. The exit will be the easterly curb cut on Hempstead Turnpike. It will be exit only. This will handle only eastbound traffic because frankly, no vehicle heading westbound on Hempstead Turnpike can cross over the 3 lanes of traffic, 2 regular lanes and a turning lane on the eastbound side of Hempstead Turnpike. So this will only be accommodating eastbound traffic, pass-by traffic really, that will utilize the facility. They can stack 8 vehicles in their stacking lane without interfering with Hempstead Turnpike. They also will have an escape lane. In addition to the queuing lane, they will have an escape lane which will remain open so that vehicles, if they're in the line and they need to get out for any reason, they can get out and pull out of the facility, exit onto Belmont Boulevard, where will be a curb cut onto Belmont that is existing at the southerly end of the property. Right now, that curb cut is about 60 feet wide. It's an old curb cut with a drop curb. That is actually going to be closed up to make it safer, and it'll only be a 24-foot wide curb cut. An additional curb cut that exists presently right at the intersection on Belmont, entering and exiting the property, that too will be closed in order to safeguard the property. No ingress or egress will be occurring from that curb cut any longer. Presently, it is used for both, or in the past, it has been used for both. Vehicles turning from the westbound lanes onto Belmont could make a quick turn into the gas station. Not the safest move. That closing that curb cut does away with that. As noted, it's an automated system. The customers don't get out of their cars. It moves very quickly. I belong to one of these car wash clubs.
What?
Believe it or not, Mr.
Vanessa,
Supervisor.
you strike me as you'd wash your car yourself kind of guy. I can't.
Well, you know.
You're throwing me off here.
I'm a very busy man, Mr. Supervisor. My wife has me very busy on the weekends. But I am a member, and I can tell you from experience that the time in the line is typically 5 minutes or less in terms of getting on the property and getting off the property. And that's why I like it, because frankly, I don't want to spend a half hour at the car wash, get out of the car, wait for it to go through, have the guys drying it, have the guys vacuuming it. There are no vacuums on this site. This is purely an express car wash, and it's for a certain clientele. The hours would be from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., open every day. There would typically be 4 employees, 5 at busy times, and there will always be an attendant available to watch the queue and make sure that if there is any kind of backup occurring that could threaten a blockage at Hempstead Turnpike, cars will be waved on and told to continue on. And frankly, as I've experienced, if you get to a car wash and it's very full and there's too many people in line, most people are going to just drive by. So it kind of polices itself, but just in case, there will always be an attendant available to take care of that and address that. As indicated, I told you the business hours. As I noted, this was the owners have owned this property for about 10 years. It was an automotive repair shop, and frankly, that automotive repair shop became a problem for at least several of the neighbors on Belmont. And in talks with some of the neighbors that they had discussions with, they indicated that they could do away with that and they could create this car wash facility in lieu of that. And at least for some of the neighbors, I believe there's some here who want to speak today, but for the ones that, several of them that they spoke to, they were in support of the application. So that's our direct presentation. Nassau County Planning Commission has recommended local determination. They looked at this. They actually recommended the closing of those curb cuts, which we did. They recommended some other things, which we did. And as a result, they have recommended a local determination, which indicates no objection on their part to the application going forward. So unless the board has any questions of me, I'll close the initial presentation and just ask for an opportunity to respond to any public comment.
I have a question, please,
Yes.
may I?
Yeah, I have a question too.
So on the road that's opposite Hempstead Turnpike, it says down here on the bottom, that's 100 feet in length, the property line. It's indicated here that there's an existing 8-foot PVC fence and then a chain link fence to be removed. Will there be a uniform fence along that side of the property installed?
We can certainly put run a complete 8-foot PVC fence along that property line. We're not adverse to that. If that's something that the board would like to see, we could do that. The one thing I left out is we are also capable, now that we have closed the curb cut on Belmont and also reduced the size of the curb cut in the rear of the property on Belmont, that gives us some room for some landscaping on the corner, which the room did not exist before because that was an active curb cut, and we can do some landscaping along the side of the property on Belmont.
I think the landscaping would be a nice touch.
I think so too.
Tommy?
I have a question or two.
Yes, sir.
The owners that own the property, will they also have the ownership in the car wash?
Yes, yes, they will. They will operate it.
That's good. And this is a total demo, knockdown, new construction, correct?
It is. It will represent a complete redevelopment of the site, which also means, as the board is well aware, that in doing so, the town will require new grading, new drainage. It will be an upgrade in that regard. And by the way, the state-of-the-art automotive car wash facilities, they recapture and recycle all water used. You know, the water that they use goes right into filters. They get filtered, they come back out, and they're used the same. So they're very efficient and very environmentally friendly.
Is there any remediation of any kind of pollution as per the operation of the automobiles service center?
Certainly, they do not have any results that indicate that there is any kind of leak or problem with the property, but as they excavate, they will be required by both the town and the county to take a look at whatever remains underground. If there's any contamination, that'll have to be mitigated and removed. Any unclean soil would have to be removed, and it has to be sealed to the satisfaction of the county and the town.
So do the new car wash owners own any other car washes?
No, they don't.
Okay. Is there any comparable car wash that they presently attach? Is it some kind of a franchise or anything like that that they know that's local, that's similar? I know, I'm sure everybody's been to car washes.
I can tell
Anything
you that.
we can
I don't know.
Visualize where we're at?
Yeah, it just so happens, they mentioned to me Washville. That's the car wash I use near my home. Washville is a chain of car washes, and it operates the same way that I just described. Basically, most of their customers are monthly customers. They pay a fee for a certain level of wash, and they pull in as many times as they want each week, month, go through for the one price per month. They will also be able to handle the public that are non-members, but they come in, they pay at the kiosk, credit card only, and they go through and take care of it. Now, detailing is a separate matter. That's by appointment only. You can't just drive on and ask to get your car detailed that moment. You got to make an appointment for that.
Self-vacuum cleaning.
No, there is no vacuum cleaning, no vacuums associated with this.
So, as a prior person who lived in Elma, I'm very sensitive to the area. I know it very well about, the traffic flow and this and that. The only question I have is, I see you want to open till 7 p.m. And I know the UBS Arena has some issues right now on traffic flow. Just so you're flexible on whether or not you close at 6 or 7, because
They would be flexible on that.
Very good. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. You know what, Mr. Vanessa, I'm going to say, let's take a 10-minute break. The stenographer really desperately is working tirelessly, does a tremendous job. She needs to be able to break. Will 10 minutes work for you? Perfect. No, we like 10 minutes more. 10 minutes. 10. All right, so we're going to take a break for 10 minutes. Thank you all. All right, we're going to start up the meeting in about a minute there. Mr. Benesso? Bill, is there anything else you want to add?
No, Mr. Supervisor, I would just like the opportunity to respond to the public comment.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. Got a couple of slips. First off, are any of the town board members have any other questions before we start with the public comment? Okay. We have Turan Diamond.
I have a comment, Mr.
Oh,
Supervisor.
Yep. Hold
Mr. Benesso indicated that the owners would consider putting in some landscaping where possible, and if they could also install a sprinkler system for the viability of the plants. Is that something they would agree to?
Yes, absolutely. And we can prepare a landscape plan for this, for the town's review.
That would be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Turan Diamond. Okay. Sarah Dillman. Hi, Ms. Dillman. Hi. If you come to the, yep. If you come to the back podium there and give your name and address. Thank you very much. Bless you. Okay. How you doing? Name and address. Oh, wait, dude, somebody help her, please. Listen. Can you lower that down? You're like on your tippy toes. I feel terrible. Okay, good. Thanks. Hi.
My name is Sarah Dillman. I live at 359 Randall Avenue in Elmont. And as a resident of Elmont, I find that a car wash on the east side will serve us a lot better than what we had before, which was the mechanic shop. With a mechanic shop, you find so much garbage. You get up in the morning, there's a car with a for sale sign, and it's just trash to make the neighborhood look, it's just a monstrosity. And I find that the car wash will serve us better eastbound because we don't have one where we live. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't have any other public slips to speak on this particular item. If anybody wishes to be heard that did not sign, please, if you come on back there and give your name and address, sir. How you doing? Afternoon.
Okay. My name is William Lucas. I live at 20 Belmont Boulevard in Elmont. I have a couple of questions about the noise and air quality as far as the cars waiting to be serviced. If they're going to be idling, that's going to add to air pollution to the neighborhood, which we pretty much there. We have a direct airline lane goes over the neighborhood. We have Home Depot. We have the library is directly across the street. We have the parking for the school buses behind the library. They're in and out all day long. We have traffic on Hempstead Turnpike, which is well known. Other than that, down the street, we have an elementary school at the end of Belmont Boulevard. At the beginning of Belmont Boulevard is the library. You have a constant flow of people going from the elementary school to the library. Is there going to be a safety? Is there going to be any crossings that are going to be increased or changed for the people to cross Hempstead Turnpike at that corner to go to the library? And then the third thing I have to address is the servicing of the customers in the detail center. When the detailing is over and the customer hasn't picked up their car yet, is there an area for them to store the cars for customers to pick them up, or are they going to be parked on the street, which we have a parking problem in Elmont on the streets anyway? So, and here's something else. I have a little map drawn. We have Millennium Car Wash, quarter of a mile to the east. We have Squeaky Clean Car Wash, a quarter of a mile to the west. That would mean within a half a mile period on Hempstead Turnpike, you have 3 automated car washes. Other than that, that's the only thing I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Lucas. Sir, give your name and address. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Gabriel Flores. I'm the corresponding neighbor to this proposed business. I'm here representing my parents, the homeowners of 14 Belmont Boulevard. First time doing this, by the way. So, we are raising a little bit of concern towards the traffic flow, specifically on Belmont Boulevard. We currently have a lot of parking issues on that street. Also concerned about the cleanliness, and then the main concern is about the noise. I know that car washes can be rather loud. Speaking to the Millennium Car Wash on Hempstead Turnpike, there is a lot of traffic towards that area that builds up on Hempstead Turnpike. I don't want that to replicate eastbound. You know, being a business owner myself, I understand the importance of supporting local businesses. However, I do want to take the consideration of the local populace, aka my neighbors. You know, there's a lot of children that are being raised on the street and throughout the neighborhood. I grew up on the neighborhood. I've lived in that same house for the past 20 years. I'm 27 years old, so that's all I know. You know, I look for prosperity in Omat. But I do want to have the board consider, you know, any obligation to the surrounding members and residents there, you know, specifically onto speaking to the traffic on Belmont Boulevard. You know, for one, I want to have my car clean, not only outside, but inside the vehicle. So my concern is people wanting to clean their vehicles, using up our property and blocking traffic in and out of our homes, not giving a way to, you know, safely leave and come as we need to be. Let me see here, sorry. Yeah. I think the final point is that although it is a public road, I believe that the parking from the car wash or cars exiting the car wash may come onto Belmont Boulevard and you know, take up spaces that our residents need to, you know, safely come home from work. So if we could find a way to circumvent that, that'd be great. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Flores. I don't have any other slips on this. Mr. Vanessa?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Very briefly, addressing the idling, yes, cars will idle while they are in the stacking lane. It's just nature of the beast. Any drive-through has cars that idle as they're going through. That said, this is one of the biggest commercial corridors in all of the town of Hempstead, Hempstead Turnpike, that is. You know, there's always going to be cars and exhaust from those cars associated with that. And, you know, for those who live in close proximity, that is something that that just occurs. In terms of safety for people who are accessing the library, it's certainly my position that this will improve pedestrian safety, and the big reason for that is the closure of that curb cut on Belmont closest to the intersection. Whereas before, vehicles could turn into the property coming westbound, they could make the left on Belmont and then make a quick right in. That will no longer be available. So consequently, anyone from Belmont who wants to go to the library is going to have unimpeded, but for the 24-foot driveway at the rear of the property, which will really only be used by the escape lane people, because the people who go through the car wash are going to go right back out onto Hempstead Turnpike. But that escape lane and maybe some of the people who leave in the detail center, they might go out that way. But I truly believe that as a result of that, there'll be better pedestrian safety on Belmont than currently exists, and certainly that would exist if the property were to be returned to a gas station and automotive repair shop. That is a signalized intersection, so no, we are not going to change anything to do with the crossing of Hempstead Turnpike. We all know crossing Hempstead Turnpike is not an easy thing, but it is a signalized intersection with crosswalks. Regarding stored vehicles Any vehicle that is left there and not picked up in time will either be stored inside the building in the detail area, or if for some reason, and this would be a rare occasion, there's more than 2 vehicles left, there are parking spaces that are head-in parking spaces on the back of the building, and they would be parked there. But it'll certainly be a lot less in terms of vehicles stored on or around the property than were occurring when it was an automotive repair shop. If you have the site plan in front of you and you look at the aerial photograph that was taken, it was back when it was a automotive repair shop. You can see all the vehicles that were stored on site, and you could even see cars that were stored and parked on Belmont Avenue. There's no reason for that to happen anymore. That really goes to the last comment that the gentleman raised about traffic. Traffic on Belmont should be reduced significantly by this, because whereas before you could access the property from Belmont, now Belmont will only be an exit for the property. It'll only be an exit at that rear escape lane curb cut, and now all ingress will come from Hempstead Turnpike, and the vast majority of the egress will go on Hempstead Turnpike. So consequently, I think all in all, this is a much better application or a much better use of the property than the past use from a standpoint of pedestrian safety, traffic safety, and disturbing the residents on Belmont Avenue. That's our direct response. Thank you.
I do mean it. You do a great presentation, and you get right to the point and don't dilly-dally with comments. It's funny. I grew up. Car wash is sort of important to me. I grew up, and we had a car wash. It was at 62 East Beverly Parkway in Valley Stream, and every Saturday I would get the pleasure of washing 5 cars in my driveway under the operational of Mr. Clavin, my father. So I don't understand why you're using the car wash that much, Bill. You really do strike me as the kind of guy who wants to do it.
I think I'm still scarred from Rudy Benesso, who was my father, forcing me to wash all the cars in the house
You say it's
on
hard.
weekends.
By the way, I just want to let you know.
Not just my mother and father's car, but my 2 sisters and my sisters and my brother.
Bill, my in-laws to this day can never figure out why I'm washing their cars too. I would ask you for a favor. What I do find sometimes is when you put up a sign, keep your radio off online. That might help, especially.
Very good idea.
Obviously these are returning customers.
Mm-hmm.
This is a club, and the club members are
Maybe
want to be
the
respectful.
idleness of the cars that shut off, maybe you want that button, they override that button, maybe they can be quieter going in.
We could certainly
way.
put up signage that indicates that you're adjacent to residential properties. Please respect that, and no loud music, and avoid idling.
Parking on the street is like a no-go in reference to.
There really won't be a need for it.
Okay.
And look, you have the two neighbors that came. So I'd ask you, regardless, whatever I do, and you're very good like this. And I mean, Mr. Benesso, if you could follow up them to give the.
And be very neighborly and see what they're tuned to, because they're in the business, they're in their own private capitalist business, and that's a good thing. That being said, I know Laura Ryder mentioned that you're going to give us a fence plan and some irrigation and stuff like that.
And landscape plan. Yes, we'd be happy to provide
the
that.
neighbors about what they think and put a seat at the table. Greatly appreciate that.
All right. Good. So, thank you, Mr. Benesso. Thank you for your presentation. With that, can I have a motion?
Yeah, I move that the public hearing be closed and the board accept the item.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby. Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Councilman Schneider.
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Gentlemen, the neighbors, please grab Mr. Benesso's card. I really do mean it. He's a really decent attorney, good presenter, and his client's going to follow up with you to make sure we can get this in there and do a nice, smooth process for you. So thank you very much for coming down.
Thank you.
Our pleasure. Okay, with that, may have a motion to adjourn?
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Administrator.
Oh, hold on, wait, I'm sorry, Kate. I'm sorry. I'm so excited about this. Can I make a motion on the administrative calendar, Madam Clerk?
Yes, so on the administrative calendar, we have items 8 through 46.
Okay, any member wish to separate anything on the administrative calendar? Okay, I actually don't have any slips on the administrative calendar. Does anybody wish to be heard on the administrative calendar that did not sign in? If not, man, do you want to speak on the administrative calendar? Yes. Don't be shy. Come on up there. You know the rules here. You know how it is. Come on. You're here every weekend. And good afternoon to you. And how about your name and address? Mr. Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Clavin. James B. Jacob, 568 Ashcott, Uniondale. I just need a point of clarification on item number 8. Item number 8 and item number 33 and 32. Point of clarification for the four locations of the houses in Uniondale. On item 33, excuse me, no, sorry, item 32. They're on the secret report and the location. And is that in the Hempstead, I'm sorry, in Garden City Village, or that's out of the greater Garden City for item number 33? So appreciate that. Thank you.
With regard to items number 32 and 33, they deal with Roosevelt Field. It's a proposal to, it's a site plan for a hotel and a three-story medical building on the south portion of the property.
Okay, when you say Southport, is that facing towards the village at Garden City? Because my understanding, Roosevelt Fields is separate intent onto the south, and that would be considered part of Uniondale.
This is considered, as far as our records are concerned, it's part of Garden City. The town part of Garden City.
You mean the village?
No, I do not mean the village. This is absolutely in the town of Hempstead.
Oh, town of Hempstead, I understand. Okay, then what about item number 8?
Commissioner, if you identify yourself, please.
Good afternoon, Supervisors, Deputy Supervisor, Board Members. Mr. Jacobs, good afternoon.
Thank you.
On items in Uniondale for
the location.
On item number 8, we have 369 Clarendon Road in Uniondale, which is an open and abandoned one-family dwelling. 899 Jerusalem Avenue, also in Uniondale, open and abandoned. That's a commercial building. We have 666 Lowell Road in Uniondale, open and abandoned one-family dwelling. And the last one that we have on this calendar in Uniondale is 683 Midwood Street,
No, we're not.
also open and abandoned one-family.
Okay, so these particular properties are scheduled to be torn down or something of that nature, or this will get taken over by, I guess, investors or something of that nature?
I'm sorry, explain what, I don't follow.
My point of clarification is that I wanted, because you have it here, that they'll probably be torn down, then the premises, building, the dwellings on the property will be torn down then,
Well,
right?
these would have to be surveyed before we go ahead and take them down, but right now what we did was we just secured them for public safety reasons.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Jacobs.
Yes.
Just a little clarification. It's the property at Roosevelt Field. This
Yeah.
portion is considered Uniondale School District, but it is the Garden City zip code.
Oh, okay, thank you. Because we have this, not you per se, but when you do the Google Maps, because of the identification of that area, I just want to make sure that people recognize where they're at, and thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Jacobs. Sure, Ms. Madden, if you go on up there.
Good afternoon, Diane Madden, Hempstead. Item number 31, could you please tell me if those lawsuits are in relation at all to the animal shelter?
None that I'm aware of. This is for future lawsuits.
Okay. Oh, this is for future. And could you please remind me what is the settlement, top of the number, I should say, or what is the top dollar amount that you can agree upon in these settlements?
$50,000.
$50,000.
$50,000.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Madden. Anybody else wish to be heard on the administrative calendar? Okay, then can I please have a motion on the administrative calendar? No, we're doing the administrative calendar.
In its entirety. Make a move that we pass the administrative calendar in its entirety.
I second the motion.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby.
Aye.
Councilwoman Miller.
Aye.
Councilman Muscarella. Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Councilman Schneider.
Aye. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Supervisor Clavin.
Aye.
Councilman Dunn.
Aye.
Deputy Supervisor Gooseby. Councilwoman Miller. Councilman Muscarella.
Aye.
Councilwoman Ryder.
Aye.
Councilman Schneider.
Aye. Okay, now that the formal town board meeting is ended, the town board will remain to listen to the comments of residents. A number of residents who signed in. We'll start with Paris Popak.
File. Thank you.
Okay, now I can say good afternoon, right? Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Clavin and the Town of Hempstead Board for hearing us, and thank you to all concerned citizens who are here today. I am Paris Popak. I live in Lawrence for 30 years. I'm a community activist. I used to be an elected official in the village of Lawrence. Imagine after all the meetings that we held in Lawrence and the meetings attended here with concerns about the moratoriums and rescinding of the TOD zoning in Inwood and North Lawrence. Imagine finally being heard and having the wise TOH board vote unanimously to rescind the dangerous TOD zoning in November, only to wake up to discover the judge's decision to reverse all that because of an error. So I'm not really quite sure how that mistake could have happened and how our safety was compromised, but we're hoping that you'll do the right thing. After personally investing vast sums of time, effort, and resources, along with the help from many others, I couldn't fathom how a technical glitch could allow developers to jeopardize the health and safety of all of us when you, the town board, had wisely agreed not to allow this in November. So I am here today to advocate, to prevail upon you to correct this technical defect as soon as possible and reaffirm your 11/19/24 decision. It seems the law was repealed based on a basic procedural neglect, and that it's now coming back to haunt us. The court said the failure to properly document with the Nassau County Planning Commission invalidated the repeal. Therefore, the court claims the repeal is invalid. So I'm just here to say, please don't let this stand. I respectfully ask you to please rectify this. What will you do to rectify this? Can you simply once again repeal the TOD zoning in its entirety and submit the proper paperwork to the Nassau County Planning Commission to effectuate this repeal? The town should reintroduce the resolution with proper procedural compliance with a fresh vote to rescind the TOD zoning changes made 5 years ago. Given the overwhelming unanimous support the measure received previously, this passage by the board should be assured. Please do the right thing. You must do the right thing. You have the power to fix this. Please revote. You must revote to save our community for us and our future generations. Please help us keep our area suburban and not urban. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Popak. Next, I have Pearl Jacobs.
Pearl Jacobs, Uniondale. So Supervisor Clavin, we heard that you will be vacating your seat and will be appointed to a judgeship in September. I would just like to share something with you. Office of Deputy Supervisor established Town of Hempstead Local Law 50-1999, put into effect on January 4th, 2000, Town of Hempstead's administrative legislation. The deputy supervisor shall be appointed by the supervisor to serve at the pleasure of the supervisor, and in case the office of supervisor becomes vacant, or in case the supervisor shall be absent or unable to act, the deputy supervisor in office at that time shall assume all duties and obligations of the supervisor under the code of the Town of Hempstead and the town law of the state of New York, and shall continue in such capacity until a new supervisor shall assume office, or the absent or incapacitated supervisor shall return to office. This shall include, but not be limited to, the power to preside at meetings of the town board. In his capacities as such, the deputy supervisor shall have no vote on matters coming before the town board. Supervisor Clavin, you appointed Dorothy Goolsby deputy supervisor. Can I inquire as to why she will not preside as acting supervisor until the general election in November? Crickets. Are you circumventing Dorothy Goolsby because you feel that she is incapable of performing the duties of Town of Hempstead supervisor? Or is it determined that she will not hold the seat simply because she is a woman of color? Town of Hempstead, stop circumventing democracy. Stop excluding constituents. Elections, not selections.
Thank you, Ms. Jacobson. Obviously, you must have some exciting news that I don't know anything about. I'll have to go home and talk to Mrs. Cleven about the fact that someone's told you this great news that I know nothing about. And then, as I said earlier today, there has been a lot of speculation about the announcements, and I will remind everybody, because the establishment is open for another hour, that today's specials are chicken burrito and beef burrito with a free soda tied in. And Reverend Millette and I are thinking about getting this right after, right, Reverend? Thank you very much. Next, I have James Jacobs.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Supervisor. No, okay, make a long story short. Here's the thing, sir. What was put out there, Blue Mills, whatever you want to believe into, was that there was going to be a special appointment today. I know you're on the ballot on the Republican ticket for a judgeship, and wishing you the best for that, because I know you'll be basically a man of rule of law. I understand that. But where my missus is coming from, where I'm coming from, Mr. Deputy Supervisor Gooseby is a civil rights icon. And if you believe in the Rob rules of procession, that when you step away, she's supposed to fill in for you. Saying that also in fact, if you're going to appoint somebody over her, we feel that's insulting and being very disrespectful. So my whole thing is that I wish you all in the election. Most likely you should win, because you got a strong party like that. And then the second token, if you do decide to leave today, I think the proper and decent thing would be to do that Ms. Gooseby take your spot, because she is deputy supervisor. Because every meeting I come to, you remind everybody that's sitting in this auditorium that she is deputy supervisor. And like I say, she's still right icon. I think she do proper respect. So that's my 2 cents worth. And also, I appreciate the people up there being very attentive, and they do listen to the people that come out their time from the work and everything else to speak to you people about their concerns and everything else. So do the right thing. Make sure Mr. Gooseby, Deputy Supervisor Gooseby, get the proper respect. That if you do decide to put the other gentleman in your spot today, to me it looks bad. Just sharing my personal thought. Thank you.
Mr. Jacobs, you're always very, very nice. You've always been very, very polite to me. I just want to reassure you again today. There's no announcement here, so I don't know who would spread that rumor about me. I'm trying to do the best I can, and I get it. No, we already know the specials, but I do appreciate it. And like I said, you're always a nice gentleman whenever I'm here. So next I have Matthew Buckies.
And the best of the holidays too, sir.
And by the way, seriously, thank you very much. I really, Mr. Jacobs, you always are a gentleman to me. You've always been very, very nice. And I've said this from the beginning. People are generally very, very nice to me. And I'm very grateful for that. This is one of the pluses. And you know what? You're passionate about issues, but you're always respectful. You're always very, very nice. And I do appreciate your kind remarks. But if anybody knows what the winning lottery tickets are going to be tonight, since everyone seems to know my future before I do it, I would appreciate that. The Cleveland kids would like that, but thank you. Mr. Buckies, go on.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Matty Buckies, and I live at 1297 Shaw Place in Seaford. And I want to wish everybody a happy Disability Pride Month and ADA 35. Well, recently, I was a trainee at the Winter Center for Autism in West Babylon, New York. It is an honor and pleasure now to work with the supervisor and with the buildings department for that opportunity. Hiring people with disabilities should not be discriminated, and as such, we should be treated like people. In 1968, the town founded the Anchor program, which helped adults and children with special needs in that capacity. And with that, you could hire anyone from a 5-year-old with autism to a 100-year-old World War II veteran who has cerebral palsy. On that case, I would like to thank the town board and to Councilman Dunn for giving me this opportunity and the job at the center. My job coach, Tomda Vitebsky, or also known as Tammy, really inspired my heart today in getting this today. So I want to thank her for that, and God bless her for that. And I want to wish Supervisor Clavin best of luck in the county criminal court. I know you'll be working with Robert Bogle and even Howard Sturham and one more judge. So on that note, everybody, please have a great summer, have a great 4th of July, and God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maddie. Thank you very much. Thank you, Maddie. Next, I have James Dunphy. James Dunphy? Okay. I have Stuart Kroll. Stuart Kroll, great, Nick. Stuart? Okay. Jacqueline Pendel? Oh, Jacqueline, what's going on? Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Jacqueline Handel. My address is 275 Central Avenue, Lawrence. We are your people, and we worked to put you on this dais. We voted to keep you on this Town of Hempstead board to recognize our needs as residents of the Town of Hempstead. We are appalled that you would now have to reconsider bringing this high-rise, low-income project one block from multi-million-dollar homes in Lawrence. We are appalled that you would now have to reconsider bringing this high-rise, low-income, low-income project on a street with several single-family houses. We are appalled that you would now have to reconsider bringing additional income into the pockets of real estate moguls and the pockets of construction workers over your own constituents. Why did we have to find out in our local newspaper this week that you failed to comply with the New York State law by not seeking approval from the Nassau Planning Commission on the appeal of the transit-oriented development you passed in November? Who didn't follow through after you made this decision? Was it intentional? Why did this process not happen? We do not want New York City problems the way Governor Hochul wants us to build this development. The result will be us looking like an urban New York City dwelling. We are a suburban Town of Hempstead community, and we want to keep our independence as a small suburban town. We are your people. We trusted you to represent us and are extremely disappointed that your November decision could be rescinded now because of a lack of responsibility, carelessness, or thoughtlessness. We thought you really cared about us.
Next, I have Rochelle Ganack. Rochelle, how you doing?
Hi, my name is Rochelle Ganack. I live at 9 Boxwood Lane. My son Abraham Ganack lives at 251 Carroll Court. My daughter Leah Wilhelm lives at 250 Pacific Avenue. We are young families living in single-family homes, loving our neighborhood. We are opposed to the dangerous transit-oriented development in North Lawrence and Inwood. I ask the board respectfully to reconsider and re-vote to protect our community.
Okay, thank you very much. Shandell Berkowitz? Shandell Berkowitz? Okay. Kiva Lubin?
What's that kid's name?
Good afternoon. Name and address for the record. Thanks.
Good afternoon. My name is Kiva Lubin from Central Avenue in Lawrence, New York. I'm calling to discuss briefly the news that was reported about the transit-oriented development. There have been two recent Nassau County Supreme Court decisions from Justice Singer regarding the proposed Heatherwood development project. The first decision and order was dated June 9th, 2025, and entered in the county clerk's office on June 11th, 2025. In the case entitled Matter of 25 Wanzer LLC and 40 Bayview LLC versus Town of Hempstead, index number 616-011/2024. In this decision, Justice Singer granted the petition to the extent that the court declared that the town failed to perform a duty enjoined by law, and that the town had failed to appoint a design review committee or otherwise process the developer's permit application, And the court also directed the town to form a design review committee forthwith, and for the committee thereafter to review and act upon the development application pursuant to the town TOD ordinance. All other relief sought by the developers was denied without discussion. This decision is not self-executing and therefore can be avoided. As to this matter, the town should decide upon the following course of action, in addition to submitting a counter-proposal for the form of judgment. Promptly, after the entire judgment, file a notice of appeal to the Appellate Division, 2nd Department. Doing so will trigger CPLR 5519, which effectuates an automatic stay of the portions of the judgment which direct the town to appoint a committee and directs the committee to review and act upon the development. Consider a law to repeal or amend the TOD ordinance which authorizes the project discussed below. The second decision and order was dated also June 9th, 2025, and also entered into the county clerk's office on June 11, 2025, in a separate case entitled Matter of 25 Winesure LLC and 40 Bayview LLC versus Town of Hempstead, but under index number 621120/2024. In this decision, Justice Singer denied so much of the petition as requested that the court direct the town to approve the development project, and granted so much of the petition as declared that the town's rescission ordinance was null and void due to failure to refer the final text of that law to the Nassau County Planning Commission for review and recommendation pursuant to General Municipal Law 239M. All other relief sought by the developers was denied without discussion. As to this matter, the town should decide upon the following course. Petitioners have served a copy of this decision and order with notice of entry, which starts a 30-day clock running for the town to file a notice of appeal. The town should promptly file a notice of appeal to the Appellate Division, 2nd Department, even though doing so will not effectuate an automatic stay of the portions of the judgment which declare the rescission ordinance invalid. The town did so yesterday. Most importantly, initiate and diligently pursue the process to enact a new law to repeal the TOD law in its entirety without grandfather clauses. Since all necessary steps to do this were already done by the town, it would appear that restarting this process would only require a new hearing followed by submission of the planning to the planning board and voting by the town.
And I would ask you to follow up with the town attorney, please. All right, next I have Lynn Krug. Afternoon, name and address for the record, thank you.
Yes, my name is Krug, like Krug Champagne, and I live at Weidler Court in Garden City. Okay, you've known me, I've spoken before. Oh God, give me a second, I just lost my connection here. Can I speak again? I'll just sit down because my cell phone went down.
The clock is running.
I'm sorry, my phone went down.
Okay.
I have my whole speech here. Could you give me a minute, please?
The clock has started running, ma'am.
Do you know what you wanted to say?
I'm sorry, I can't open my phone. No,
Laura, can you do
my phone went dead.
Can you just speak off?
No.
Yeah, I'll get it.
There you go.
Okay, I want to start my speech with something that I read. It was a speech by Robert F. Kennedy. Every time we turn our heads the other way, when we see the law flouted, when we tolerate what we know to be wrong, to the corrupt because we are too busy or too frightened, when we fail to speak up and speak out, we strike a blow against freedom, decency, and justice. Residents are as fed up as I am, yet you approved a zoning change where 58 speakers opposed and 1 speaker was in favor. Despite public opposition, this board laid the red carpet out for Blackjack Blakeman and the partnership with the Sands to bring Jake's 58 west to the hub. They will announce this right before the November elections and will try to bring back the 1,000 video lottery terminals from Queens. Currently, NASA gets about $25 million per year under the agreement signed back in 2016 when the Fortunoff and Belmont Properties proposals failed. Will you be the 7th supervisor to resign before your term is completed? My research shows that 6 out of 10 of the Hempstead supervisors were appointed, not elected. The voters deserve a choice, election, not selection for the Hempstead Sound supervisor. This is the playbook. Everything we've had to deal with over the course of the past 2 years takes its toll, and the corruption we have witnessed has got to stop. On June 28th, you had a hot dog eating contest. Were you the judge? Was this a prerequisite for the judgeship, and were you that you were promised? Did you know that hot dogs are the #1 carcinogen and cancer is caused by them? So why would you have such a thing going on? I guess you really want to stop your people who are always fighting here and telling you to do the right thing.
Thank you. Next, we have Diane Madden.
Diane Madden, Hempstead. Is the supervisor coming back? It's very concerning because if there's been speculation, which likely has come from your side, why wouldn't he clear up the record? Because I'm curious to know if there's coming a point where he will be vacating the seat and who may assume that seat. And I would be saying this, as you know, better than anyone, regardless of which party. So I think it would be very fair, based on the fact that Supervisor Clavin is going to be a judge, to make a very fair decision regarding this issue. Because people are not here because of what may not have happened today, but what usually transpires and what will happen in the future. I do want to thank Joe Shinablo for being here, candidate for supervisor. And the reason why I say that is because animal advocates had to prop up Laura Gillen constantly. We had to give her courage, but she didn't really have any. But he's here on his own accord, which I wasn't even aware he was going to speak. And that says a lot about someone's character. We had to prop her up, and he's been propping the public up and the animals. So I do give him so much credit for doing that. I'd like to speak about the animal shelter in 1 week's time. These are the things that I learned about. I mean, it's nonstop. My phone is ringing, the emails come in, my messages come through from out of state, from local people, and you get them too, because they tell me that they've outreached to this board many times about making some great decisions. Bring in a full-time, unbiased trainer, which I've asked you. Audit the shelter operationally and fiscally. This would resolve and prevent lawsuits, injuries, and people from leaving. So number one, a cat was released that's dependent on a feeder. She was released to the wrong colony. That may sound like nothing. These cats get released to the wrong colony. They've got to figure out where their feeder is. They're not used to trying to find their own food. Number two, I foiled, how many dogs have come in from January of 24 until current date? 53. I think there's close to 800,000 residents in this town. Most of those dogs came in because the shelter was forced to take them in through evictions and because they were failed adoptions. Number three, a lost dog was, a person called about the lost dog. You still have no one in charge full-time of lost and found. Luckily, she ended up coming into the shelter. They kept telling her dog was not there. Number five, another volunteer was banned. You guys, I thought you were really much smarter than that. I cannot believe what's going on with this town, that you could even consider threatening someone with police force and to not enter town property. And number five, a volunteer was severely bit again.
Thank you. Next, we have Abraham Belsky.
Good afternoon. My name is Abraham Belsky, 16 Boxwood Lane, Lawrence. Happy July 4th, everybody. I'm here to talk about the TOD development. We have all heard the complaints of the people, which is a minority of residents of Lawrence. Most people are at work. On a personal basis, I wanted to say, I wanted to build an indoor pool on my property, and I was not allowed. Why would a developer be allowed to build multi-story homes in my backyard? All I want to add to this, that I can assume that if this project goes forward, you guys' political careers will be over. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. There's no one else on the list that signed in. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay. If you could just line up. Thank you. And state your name and address, please.
Yes. Good afternoon. Chris Jacobs, Uniondale, New York.
Supervisor Clavin, you held a press conference this past November and discussed Governor Hochul's congestion pricing. In summary, you said, quote, "What you found most troubling was the sham vote that took place, circumvents requirements. There were a comment period that would enable residents to speak and be heard before this tax grab took place. Well, the governor circumvented this by doing, that's why I'm happy to announce today that yesterday the town of Hempstead, along with residents from Freeport, have filed a lawsuit in the Supreme Court of Nassau County against the MTA to stop this congestion pricing money grab. The governor knows this is an unpopular tax. The governor knows this will go down. The federal government is given a chance. So she is jamming this through in violation of state requirements in an attempt really just to get money. It was an ill-conceived scam from the beginning, and the governor's attempt to jam this thing through is terrible, but most importantly, we're doing what's right. We're standing forth for the residents of the town of Hempstead, end quote. Very well said. However, I did not see the same resolute commitment to transparency when the town of Hempstead jammed through the rezoning of the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum site into the Mitchell Field Integrated Resort District. Residents had no advance notice, no mailers, no public town hall meetings, and no questions answered by any of our town of Hempstead elected officials. That is one of the many examples where the town enacts their own standard of governance while holding the other governmental bodies to a higher criteria. Countless times the town of Hempstead chooses to forego a special election and opts to appoint officials, both elected and non-elected, into position when vacancies occur against the wishes of town of Hempstead residents. It is also standard procedure that when residents come before the town of Hempstead board, they are met with only answers from the town supervisor while the district councilman sit in awkward silence for the vast majority of the meetings, disengaged from their voting constituents. Today, however, some of you are talkative, so that's a pleasant surprise. Supervisor Clavin, at the end of the news conference, you said, quote, "People see right through this. People want transparency. This is the exact opposite. This is what makes people sick of government. When efforts like this do not give people the ability to be heard." End quote. Going forward, I hope the town of Hempstead board adheres to the same standard they require of New York State's governmental bodies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry Belsky, 16 Boxwood Lane, Lawrence. I'm here representing my neighbors and my family. I apologize in advance that my statement is not as polite as Ms. Popak. I didn't have much time to prepare, but it's a very serious issue for us, our community, the TOD project. Nassau County Executive Bruce Blakeman played a prominent role in pushing the proposal as a councilman in 2019. I have been focused on innovative zoning initiatives throughout my career, including transit-oriented zones in the Five Towns area. Blakeman wrote this in a statement to the Herald. I understand the town is considering fine-tuning the existing zoning code in that area, and I look forward to working with the town on zoning enhancements that make sense. As a resident of Lawrence for over 3 decades, I feel compelled to address this comment. I'm unaware of the individuals to whom he spoke. He did not convene a town hall meeting to solicit residents' input on this matter. Consequently, we, the residents, were not consulted on whether or how we desired to fine-tune our existing zoning code or enhance our neighborhood. We, the residents, who have dedicated our hearts and souls to making the Five Towns communities what they are and have invested millions upon millions of our hard-earned money in our homes, businesses, schools, and taxes, were neither involved, consulted, nor considered when this so-called innovative concept was conceived. Our primary objective is to enhance the quality of life within our community. We aspire to achieve this by addressing several critical issues. Firstly, we desire access to clean and safe drinking water, akin to the water supply in Far Rockaway. This would eliminate the need for home filters or the reliance on bottled water. Secondly, we strongly advocate for the repair and improvement of our sewer systems to prevent flooding in basements and streets. Thirdly, we seek the installation of more efficient electric transformers in our neighborhoods to reduce the frequency of power outages and brownouts, as what happened last night. Fourthly, we prioritize the installation of precise traffic lights and an increase in their number to minimize accidents. We emphasize the need for a heightened police presence to enhance street patrols and deter crime, even though our community is not considered particularly high risk. Lastly, we prioritize safety and security within our neighborhoods. The overdevelopment of our border in Far Rockaway has already resulted in increased traffic congestion. We are currently engaged in negotiations with the Woodmere Country Club project with a proposal for the 160 units. Furthermore, the Woodmere Academy project was initiated without prior consultation. The Pearsall project was approved despite our oversight, and we anticipate litigation that will halt construction. Furthermore, you have rescinded the stop on the project despite your knowledge of the necessary and appropriate applications and actions. We are perplexed by this decision and demand an explanation. This situation raises serious concerns, and investigation is in order to determine the underlying causes.
Thank you. Next.
Daisy Salmon, 81 Brower Avenue in Woodmere. Good morning, Supervisor Don Clavin and the members of the town board. I, Daisy Salmon, am here today because we residents of the town of Hempstead were promised that the dangerous TOD zoning change, one that we previously fought hard against, would be reversed. You heard our concerns and you unanimously voted to rescind the TOD zoning, including the grandfathered projects. In November 2024, you acted to protect our community by rescinding the detrimental TOD zoning. We believed we had reached an understanding with this board, that our voices mattered, and that our quality of life, safety, and environment were not up for negotiation. But now it appears that the very same zoning change is quietly moving forward again, only due to an error presenting the proper documents. To the Nassau County Planning Commission, this is deeply shocking, disappointing, and unacceptable. Really, it's unforgivable. Let me be clear. What's happening now undermines the trust of this community, your constituents. It places the interests of developers and political agendas above the people who live here. And it directly threatens the character, infrastructure, environment, safety, and future of our community. We are calling on this board to do what is right. Listen to your constituents, keep your word, correct your error, and make the right decision to pass the reappeal properly. And without delay, protect our community. The very people you elected to serve do not cave to political and developer pressure. We are watching, we are organized, and we're not going away. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeannie Cordian. I reside at the townhouse at Lido Beach in Lido Beach, New York. I would like to say good afternoon to the supervisor and the members of the board. I'm a little perplexed right now. I don't know what's going on, why the supervisor just left so abruptly. I've been waiting all morning to speak to him, so I don't know what the situation is for that. I was here a few months ago and spoke about the dilapidated buildings at the Sands and the horrible findings in the environmental studies that I have been asking for 3 months, and I still have not got the environmental studies. What happened is Joe came out yesterday, and all of a sudden, Channel 12 News has Brian Devine, a Hempstead town spokesperson, saying that due to the presence of the asbestos and lead in the buildings as detailed in an independent engineering report, the town has already put a plan in place to carefully and responsibly demolish this building in the fall. The beginning of the statement, it says that due to the presence of asbestos and lead in these buildings, meaning more than one. The second half of the statement says they carefully and responsibly demolish this building. Well, it can't be one or the other. We have 5 buildings there and one big, huge pile that's overgrown, and quite honestly, we don't know what's underneath it. I last spoke with David on June 26th, and I asked for the plans for the 5 buildings and asked for the environmental report, which is entitled to me through the Freedom Information Act. I have been nothing but patient and polite, and I just want to have the plans in writing as to what you're going to be doing with these 5 buildings and the environmental study report. If you could email me that, David, I would appreciate it. And I'm sorry that the supervisor chose to leave. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir?
How you doing? My name is Joe Schnabelo. I'm a resident of Garden City. I'm here as a concerned resident, but I'd be remiss because it was already brought up. I am running for supervisor of the town of Hempstead. And I'm here also on a theme. I'm not speculating on any resignations, and I do appreciate my time separately with some of the council members that I've had to speak to outside of this building. I do want to say good afternoon to Supervisor Clavin. I do wish him nothing but the best in his judgeship from when he does leave this office. Deputy Supervisor Gooseby and the rest of the councilmen and women, thank you for providing a platform for us to speak today. But again, I am here as a concerned resident of Garden City. I'm also a Marine combat veteran. I'm a retired New York City police officer and a former prosecutor from Queens District Attorney's Office. And I'm here today just to bring up the practices of the past and make sure that we don't continue down this road. And I know that a couple other people have referenced selection, not election, and that's what I'm speaking on today. If there is a vacancy prior to, and I'd like to go on a record too, I didn't start that rumor. It wasn't me. But nonetheless, it's out there, and people have concerns about it. So if there is a vacancy, I implore the councilmen and women of this board to adhere to the town code and appoint the deputy supervisor as intern supervisor or the next senior council member. But definitely do not go outside the elected officials of this town board and appoint somebody who hasn't been elected to this board. To a minute, 10 seconds left. To Supervisor Clavin, I would ask you if you were here, do you plan on resigning before your term is up? Because it is a rumor that's out there, right? And the best way to get ahead of rumors is to address them head on. Again, for the record, I didn't start this rumor, but I'm here because I've also heard it, and it's of a concern of mine too. That being said, I do plan on having the chicken burrito today for lunch. So Deputy Supervisor Clavin, thank you for bringing that to our attention. And honestly, Supervisor Clavin, if you can hear me, if you are in the building, I do ask you directly if you plan on filling out the remainder of your term, or you do plan on resigning, because there are rumors out there, and the people of the town of Hempstead really do want to know. Thank you for the time. I do appreciate it. Have a great day and enjoy your 4th of July weekend.
Thank you.
The name, Joseph Lipschutz, Regent Drive in Lawrence. We're here again. We didn't expect to be back, but and Supervisor Clavin, I'm sorry he's not here. At any event, due to the courts overturning the town of Hempstead's repeal of the most controversial TOD zoning in Inwood and North Lawrence, so we find ourselves here again. These are the words that were said at the last meeting we were here in November 19th, 24. One of the things that was learned in conjunction with a very comprehensive review authorized by Nelson Pope and Vars, the town's environmental consultants, there were a number of inadequacies with regard to how this TOD zone was ever enacted. Not by this board, this was said, but under the guidance of the prior supervisor, Ms. Gillen. And one of the things that was learned, and that was actually most glaring in the process, is that the notification requirements and the legal obligations that the town does have and continues to have in every instance with respect to notifying and reaching out and making sure there's a proper communication to affected residents and property owners were not met with regard to the enactment of this zone. So, Mr. Supervisor, with respect to the glaring inadequacy and others, it's very clear that rescission that the board will now take as an action is not just appropriate, but must actually be required, because the zone itself would be null and void. And again, this is an action and a consequence brought about by a decision and improper steps taken by by a prior supervisor, but something now, of course, responsible. This was led up to the repeal that was done. We thought we were finished, but now I find out how by reading it in the news item, by VIN News on internet. The Five Towns community is mobilizing once again following a Nassau Herald report that a court has overturned the town of Hempstead's repeal of the TOD. The ruling has residents questioning whether their elected officials followed proper legal procedures and demanding immediate action to protect their suburban community. According to the Nassau Herald, the town of Hempstead failed to comply with state law, and when it attempted to reverse the TOD zoning, the town neglected to seek required approval from the Nassau County Planning Commission. Procedure failure has effectively nullified the town board's November 19th, 24 vote. And then it goes on, this article, I'm going to submit this article for to be in the records because it specifically mentions a particular politician who's involved in this original episode of 2019 when this 2,000 units, when this 73 acres of thousands of people.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you.
But I can submit this.
Yes, you can, of course. If there's no one else that would like to speak, I will request a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
So moved. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.